All right, welcome to Christian Hangout number 29. So far with us, we have returning. We have LUMEN Saul, we have Mark Citadel, we have Gregory Carlin, and joining us for the first time is Delta USA. Hello, Delta.
Greetings, everyone.
So as is the drill around here, would you like to introduce yourself since you're a first timer and tell us what your Christian background is?
Oh yes, so basically one of those. I'm trying to think of how to explain it. Like of course, I don't really follow. I really don't pertain to one denomination one way or another. That's the first point, and I'm one of those. If you heard of like the whole King James kind of only kind of I'm trying to get a feel for like the feel for like what kind of group. Like I'm more of like around that King James biblical kind of background. Like that's where I kind of come from, and that's my origins, and I was raised around that. I was raised around that to a good extent. Mostly I found it through YouTube and things like that. But my mom, I was raised around. My mom was a Christian, and I was raised into it. I went to church. Then my mom kind of she kind of backslid, and then it kind of led to my experience in the world. And of course, I returned to Christianity because of all the just kind of going in the world and falling into degeneracy, and then going like, what is this? And I came back to it about a couple of years ago.
Cool. Talking about King James only, that reminds me of Baptists. I don't know if that's a Baptist thing explicitly, but it seems.
Yeah, here we go with the Baptist posting.
The Baptist.
Yeah, you're a Baptist.
Yeah.
You could argue I have kind of somewhat of a Baptist background if you want to put it that way.
Yeah. I mean, whatever.
Most of my family is kind of I kind of became that. I kind of put that's mostly the version of the Bible that I've always kind of been familiar with. We've always stuck with it throughout the family, so therefore I never knew much outside of it. And on the other point, it's kind of a weird like the whole message of a William Branham. Have you heard of him? That's kind of it's kind of like the whole sphere of Christianity I'm kind of within because of like my mother and family and etc.
I just focus on the fruits of a certain sect in a certain country.
Yeah, but really, as far as like denominations, we really don't identify with one way or another.
Yeah, I don't fall
I'm kind of the same way.
I guess I'm a kennist, and I sought out the most conservative community I can find, and here that's the Baptist community.
I'm a traditional Catholic, and I think Mr. Citadel is as well.
No, he's
Orthodox,
actually.
Oh, I apologize. Sorry.
It's okay.
He's an Ortho bro.
Ortho bro. I do like the Orthodox Church, though. My mom's not very fond of it.
They shapeshift into bears and talk about Jesus.
Sometimes. Well, my mom's not fond of the Orthodox Church, even though I do like the Orthodox Church.
Yeah, it's pretty based.
What is it? Your mom's church?
Yeah. No, I say she's not fond of a lot of other denominational groups.
Oh.
It's not as my family, though, at all.
So does
you're saying that
still linger?
What?
Sorry, go on, Mr. Ian.
Oh, no, it's fine. You said, does the doubt still linger?
Yeah. No, I'm always being genuine because the transition isn't a smooth one. It's more increments and it grows on you than a sudden revelation.
I kind of have this issue with my family, though. That's kind of defeats. They're more like, the rapture is going to happen and all prophet end time stuff. So therefore, they don't really care much about anything that's going on for the most part.
I find that annoying.
I find it really defeatist, and I'm like, I'm still going to fight on anyway.
Yeah. I have to remind. Go on.
Do you have more to say, Delta?
That's mostly just all I have to say as of now. If you want to know like anything on ideology, you can ask questions there too.
Okay.
But I think Ian already knows.
Well, yeah, I told everyone that you're a fascist.
You can tell by my pictures. That's not hard.
Yeah.
So the JQ set with you.
The JQ. On the JQ, I don't really talk much about the JQ. I'm not really like all like Nazi or anything, so you're good. You're okay.
Yeah.
We're a tolerant bunch, except for those filthy non-Christians.
The Muslims, the Jews.
We're a hangout of peace. The Ian Christian hangout is really a hangout of peace, and people really kind of blow it out of proportions.
Well, people seem to sort of forget the word tolerance, because the word tolerance implies that I don't like you. I just have to bear your presence. So
Oh,
by
are we doing it with the sodomites?
well, I don't bear their presence. Maybe you have to. It's more.
Sometimes, yeah, but
They're more in the closet here because they get the shit kicked out of. Sorry, the crap.
yeah.
Well, people are very. I'm actually a moderate by Romanian standards.
Wow.
But it's changing. It's changing. I constantly see more and more Romanian SJWs pop up, and repeating the same arguments that you guys your countries had 20 years ago. But I just countersignal them by saying, why are you discriminating against people with other orientations like necrophilia and zoophilia? Why are you bigots? Why the bigotry? And they never can answer. This is a joke, but they never can answer straight this question. Why?
Well, the thing is, that's not all that far away. Like, I remember, when I was kind of conservative, neocon or whatever, and I was watching Bill O'Reilly. This is maybe in 2005 or so, and he was talking about, the increasing push to normalize gay relationships, and talking about how it would become a slippery slope, and you'll have people at some point pushing for polyamory and
child relationships,
pedophilia. Yep. And I remember
animal and being around with animals,
bestiality. And I remember at the time I was like, well, I can kind of see where he's coming from, but and this is before I was really trying very hard to penetrate into these things, and pun not intended. But I mean, I was like that sounds kind of far fetched, but it wasn't, and I mean, it's not like Bill O'Reilly's it's not like he reads Julius Evola before he goes to bed, but I mean, it makes sense. I mean, it's not far off, Gregory.
I never got why in intellectual circles the slippery slope argument is seen on par with the ad hominem or other logical fallacies. Because if history is an indicator, it's obvious it never has an exception. The slippery slope always applies, because sudden shocks in lifestyle and in ideology will alienate people. But if you'd gradually accustom them, like every nation did, for example, with socialism, they didn't declare communism overnight and open borders. They a pension program here and something else there, and it gradually accumulated. It's the boiling the frog steadily. It's actually a very observable phenomenon. I don't understand why logical people ignore it and see it as a fallacy.
Well, it's not a fallacy. I mean, even by the technical definition of what a fallacy is, people often say the slippery slope fallacy. If anybody ever says that word, it's just if anyone says this is a slippery slope fallacy, just stop talking to them, because they don't know what a fallacy is. It's what it is. It's just an argument that people don't like. It's a type of argument people don't like hearing, because it implies that it has a certain implication about human freedom, that if you give people the freedom to do something bad, they will then inevitably use that freedom to do worse things in the future, and that goes against their ideals of the nature of human beings.
There's this deep sense of betrayal, because I still have this lingering sensation that the scientific community still cares about science and observable. I mean, how can so many people with advanced degrees say that it's a fallacy to notice that consequences have actions? This is the basis of this argument. Your actions have consequences. And biologists who know how neurons work and how behavioral patterns form through reflexes and conditioning, how can they say it's a fallacy? Like Mr. Marx said, you should run away at the second, but I feel betrayed. I read these guys all my life.
Hmm. Well, anyone can be the victim of that kind of need to signal. You know, it's foolish to put scientists on any kind of I don't know, kind of Brahmin level. Yeah, exactly. It's just foolish.
The problem with the scientists has been that they really overstep their authority. I mean, I'll listen to Dawkins if he's talking about evolution, but I'm not really concerned with his opinions on God. I don't think his opinions on God really have any intellectual ground to stand on, really, especially having read or listened to him several times. Same thing with people like Christopher Hitchens. You know, the more since Christopher's passed away, the more of a fool he's looked like in regards to things like Iraq and, theology.
Well, he was just a journalist, though, is the thing. I mean,
I never got the
he
Hitchens
at least didn't
thing.
have any profession, any kind of scientific credential to back up his work. Like, I think Sam Harris is like a neuroscientist, isn't he? And Dawkins is obviously a biologist.
Yes.
We can dedicate some time to deconstructing Hitchens' arguments because they're really not to par with any of Harris or Dawkins' arguments.
Do we need to dedicate time to them then?
No, but
I was thinking the same thing.
those guys.
And we will invite the wrath of the skeptic community if we do that.
Oh my god!
Isn't there a rule that we officially refer to them as the septic community? I think that was.
That's good. That's good.
That sounds perfectly reasonable.
Yeah. Besides, aren't they kind of like they're a done deal now? Because I think YouTube banned the word atheist from being in your handle name or something.
Really?
I didn't hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Smugness levels on YouTube fell through the floor overnight. It was crazy.
Oh my god! The discarded fedoras and the vaping. Oh,
I thought it was the fedora and neckbeard band that did them in finally.
Seriously, one of these atheist guys weighs more than all of us put together.
Why should we even argue with atheists, though? Full of sin in its heart, there's no God, so it's. I'm like,
I don't really waste time with it.
It's the good old boy.
What's going on, my dudes?
Not much, just hanging around.
What's going on?
We're all just chilling.
Making fun of atheists.
Yeah, fedora tippers.
Dude, say with your Texas accent. If you don't like what we tell you to do, we'll kill you. Or the George W. Bush code.
You don't like what we tell you to believe in, we'll kill you.
What we want you to do, we'll kill you.
That sounds more like backwoods Georgia.
Yeah, it sort of is, but I mean, like, okay, your average, internet troglodyte, he's not gonna tell the difference. He's gonna be like, oh, Southern people.
Yeah. I can actually tell the difference between a Texas accent and like a Deep South accent.
Oh yeah.
They're like I know I can tell them apart.
Oh yeah. There's actually like slight differences in the accents of like between the regions of Texas, like
You don't even need to analyze that much. You'll know someone's from Texas because they won't shut up about it. It's kind of like being an atheist or a gay. They have to let you know.
Right. We're from
the conversation. I'm from Texas, and we're allowed to secede from the Union whenever we want. And of course, that doesn't work because they tried that and that failed.
Yeah.
Well, I'd support them if they did it again.
I mean, I would too.
I would.
I definitely would too. But I mean, that reality says otherwise. They can't do that.
Well, I mean, didn't Texas originally join the Union because they needed the money?
Yeah. What a stupid decision that was. Yeah. They could be, wasn't it? Don't they always say if it was independent, it would be like it's something like within the top 20 economies in the world.
What was the Texas economy pre-oil?
Within like the top 10 economies, and actually, you know, count the boundaries of the old Republic of Texas before we, were annexed in the United States. You know, we span an area that covered all the way up to Denver, Colorado. So we were like probably twice, maybe 3 times as big.
Yeehaw!
Yeehaw!
So, does anybody want to talk about Trump's latest antics?
Boy, do we. Yes.
Oh God!
Oh man, that was.
I think I might have you on it pretty
well, Mark would have
Hold on. Everybody's talking at once here.
There's 4 different things that I've kind of like, or different variables that might be the case. And I'm going to break it down from like most likely to least likely. Most likely, he's been an agent all along. You've been duped. You know, have fun with that. Great knowledge. Second most likely, they found something that, you know, that they're able to control him with, and, you know, they've basically got him wrapped around their finger. Third most likely, he's been duped, and he's an unwilling agent. This is the third most likely, and here's, you know, the least likely. And we all have to be like legitimately real with ourselves. This is, you know, this is an ant's fart in the wind in terms of the possibility of this happening, but it could be that he's playing 1488 dimensional chess in outer space, and he's basically getting, you know, Syria to nuke Israel for us, which
or he's setting up antics so that neocons have something to jerk off to.
I think you missed out what I think is the most likely option. That is that he's thick.
Yep.
He's not intelligent, and therefore that they've managed to manipulate him.
dude,
You know, not that they've blackmailed him, not that they've got some video on him peeing on prostitutes or something like that, but that he's can simply somebody can go up to him with a bunch of photos and say, "Look at the dead children! Look at the dead children! Don't you care about the dead children?"
That's exactly.
And get him to,
that's why that was actually covered in option 3. He's been duped.
yeah. Well,
Trump
I think he has been duped.
I'm kind of a little more charitable toward Trump because, like, when you saw that press conference where he was announcing what he did, he seemed a little bit out of sorts to me. So it really did make me wonder if something's going on that we don't know about. I'm like, I do kind of wonder if perhaps they put him in some sort of, he's doing this under duress in some way. I don't know, but I wouldn't put anything past the neocons to manipulate people.
It's very likely he's doing this all under duress. I mean,
or you have you think you have like a Kush is Ivanka's husband's faction, and the faction of Steve Bannon duking it out now. There's chaos going on in the administration.
I don't think there's really any duking it out. Steve Bannon's, as far as I can see, has lost. He's going to be out of that administration very soon. Officially.
Oh, the neocons probably have.
I mean, we always knew this was a possibility. I mean, the entire possibility of this happening is the reason why I chose to abstain from voting this past election.
Well, you've been vindicated.
Yeah.
Well,
I had to eat crow. I've just had to post a elected broadcast eating crow.
Eat crow. I think we're all going to be wrong at some point when we're talking about these things. It's to be expected. Yeah. When I was in high school, I was a neocon. I was all about invading Iraq, and over time, I grew up, and I realized
it wasn't that. It's that I genuinely thought he was who he said he was because he was so weird and off the wall.
The thing to break it down into is the fact is just, you know, you have to fall back on the fact that you just can't you can't put your faith in a man like that. I mean, he's just gonna let you down. And also, you know, we've been touting Trump as like our magnum opus, like, oh, he is the best plan for the worst situation, which he's not. I mean, the thing is about any situation is that you have to, you know, hope for the best, but always plan for the worst. And so far, looks like happening. So what are we going to do? What's our plan now? You know?
Well, we were talking about this before. Go on. Sorry.
No. Oh, I was just going to say, that's my view too. Like, just Trump was a calculated gamble. It hasn't worked out as we thought. But again, I don't want to be uncharitable to Trump. I feel like he is going up against the deep state. He is going up against the entire media establishment. Basically, everybody opposed this guy. So I don't know. I just feel like at some point, you knew that he wasn't going to be able to fight them forever, so he has to go along to get along.
It all depends where it goes from here, though, Ian. I mean, if it's just this one airstrike and that's it, you know, maybe I'm more aligned that charitable line. But if it escalates and we're talking about serious lives, I can't forgive that.
Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone can.
That's what I'm saying. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt until he makes it worse. I mean, of course, Bill Kristol's crowing over on Twitter about how finally Trump is getting on board.
Can we not mention that?
Okay, yeah.
Person.
Well, I want to
subhuman.
Approach. My thing, I'll make it.
You guys hear about the fact that apparently, Mark Citadel actually tweeted about it. Apparently, ISIS coordinated an attack on a Christian community while the airstrike was
I think it's called Hammer. Yeah, this was reported by somebody on the ground there. So Trump has run the Air Force of ISIS. Great job.
Yes.
Did you say
Well,
that was Hammer, Mark?
Well
That's
done.
This is not really a shift in policy in any way for the United States. It's just a betrayal of essentially
Well,
the
it's a
platform
continuation.
that Trump ran on during the election.
No. Hold on. It is a change in the policy because, whatever you want to think about Barack Obama never actually touched anything that the Syrian regime was doing. He did. There were some strikes which killed some Syrian soldiers. I think there was that strike. It was a little bit before Obama was out of office that killed those soldiers. They claim that was an accident, though. This is the first time where the U.S. government has said, as far as I'm aware, we are deliberately targeting Syrian.
Okay, well, maybe it might be a change de jure, but it certainly isn't a change de facto. I mean, the fact of the matter is that foreign intervention is a bipartisan effort. It has been a bipartisan effort since we started these crusades back with Iraq.
Yeah.
How many Syrians died in the airbase airstrike?
Oh, I think
said 4
in
children.
the one most recent.
Yeah, the most recent one.
In the one that Trump did, we don't. I don't trust what reports we're getting. We're getting reports from the US saying that nobody died because nobody was there, and then there are Syrian reports saying that I think there was eight or nine people died.
Well, I mean, we can.
It's hard to get an accurate report.
I mean, in all honesty, that you can look at it several ways. You can look at it as that was a pretty big hit to a very critical, logistics point because airfield. It's not like you can take off of an airfield with a jet that's got rubble on it. A rock can suck in the engine and destroy it in a heartbeat. Yeah. So he's basically disabled the airfield. But on the bright side, airfields are very wide open spaces. You could bomb the hell out of them and potentially not hit anyone.
Okay, so what if Trump is, forget about this 4D chess stuff. What if he's gone on to Hermann Hesse's 25th century glass bead game? He's the Magister Ludi, and he's, I don't like Ian. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I'm wondering why we haven't heard an address from him. Not even an address, but just like an acknowledgement, even. So
Rex Tillerson confirmed.
What do you want him to acknowledge?
Strategy change for the administration. So
not acknowledge, but I'm just saying any sort of public message to the country about in the wake of this.
He did. He wrote that no children of God should.
No children of God should suffer this. Oh, you.
You don't even believe in your God.
In a country with legal infanticide.
You said the children of God. Although to be fair, Christians in Syria.
To be fair, that wasn't as bad as Marco Rubio, who tweeted during the time that this was going on, scriptural thing saying, "And the wicked shall be." It's like it's insane. This is cultic. This is cultic stuff when you're using scripture to justify basically killing people who are protecting Christians from death. It's insane.
I think Dennis Prager was right on this because the commandment to do not take the Lord's name in vain doesn't only refer to cursing the name of God. It does refer to dragging God's name into causes that are objectively evil.
That's absolutely correct.
I do agree on that.
He's doing.
It also has to do with the fact that, okay, honestly, you guys tell me, the quote-unquote alt-right and whatnot, tell me that they haven't put Trump on a pedestal as an idol.
Well, here's the thing, though. I've been rather impressed. And, you can go back and look at my record. I've been a pretty stern critic of the alt-right in the past few months, particularly. But I have been rather impressed by the fact that they have not rallied around the flag on this. They've pretty much, across the board, people who I would call alt-right proper have dropped him like a hot rock. Even Richard Spencer, who I think the morals of are rather dubious, has said, I didn't vote for this. Trump's basically betrayed the base, screw him.
Even if you check the social media comments, only boomer parents and grannies are congratulating Trump.
Right.
Exactly. And people our age are BTFOing him.
Yeah, I call them patriotards. These are the people who go to Tea Party protests, and these are the people that love George Bush all the way through his presidency. These people are just scum. They're utter scum. They're the worst people.
They just like seeing stuff blowing up.
No, but it's more than naivete. They take a pleasure in this, and I've seen the posts. They are loving this. They think this means, America's back leader of the
That's what I
free
mean. Yeah, they just
world,
like
and
stuff
these people
blowing up.
claim to be anti-globalists.
Now it's going on about how, like, oh, dude, Obama, like, made us look weak. So, Trump is doing this to make America look strong again. It's like
it's a religion for them.
It is.
They have a religious zeal about the United States and its its sort of founding father destiny of protecting the free world.
They do have a point on this, because you don't punch a guy. If you start the fight, you better make sure you finished it. And Obama pulled out of Iraq, which was a mistake. However,
it was a mistake to go in.
This is but
I mean,
if you start something, you have to
serious situation in the first place.
No, I'm saying whatever happens, you get into a fight, you don't pull your punches. You either kiss people or you knock them out. You don't do in-betweens, because if you wound people, if you only wound the country, you will create problems, and the neocons are right on only this point. However, they shouldn't have gone into Iraq, and they extrapolate this one act of weakness to the whole Obama administration. And that's not actually fair, because Obama demolished Libya. That was an act of subversive strength. Where's the neocon praise on that? By their standards.
No, the neocons were in favor of Libya.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why aren't they praising Obama?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the things is that I don't know. I think that for them, either way it goes, if they get a dude like Trump who's got his finger on the big red button and just willing to push it, or if they have Obama who's willing to destroy the nations they want to destroy in any way,
For 4 years, you guys are relatively safe, but Europe is going to get flooded with Syrians.
That was exactly the point of most of my outrage, is that this is preventing the people who have come to Europe from being returned, because this is prolonging that war.
And they actually tell you, John Potter says, like, the only way to stop these refugees is to bomb Syria. He's like you're an idiot. This is the exact opposite of what you're saying.
I think this is a good transition to Sweden, because we see the effects of diversity once again.
Yeah, so ironic, isn't it, that it is literally hours after Donald Trump plays defense for ISIS, you have this Uzbek. I think he's Uzbek. I think they've come out and said that how many people is it? 4 or 5 are dead.
Did you see the picture with the severed leg?
Yeah, I saw that picture.
Oh, God.
Somebody got basically cut in half by a truck.
I have a very basic
there were similar pictures for the one in Nice. That's not...
they covered them up pretty quickly in Nice.
No, I don't even want to look at pictures like that. I can't understand that.
I have a very basic understanding of medicine, and believe me, getting hit by a car is agonizing, because you can't bleed out. The pressure and the weight of the car actually squishes and compresses your blood vessels. So you're
okay, enough, please. I don't like that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay.
Let's not get too explicit with this.
I just want you to hate Muslims. I just a tenth of what I'm feeling right now would be okay. Well, I just want to hate these bastards. Those are people who are that small girl. She's never going to hold her baby. She's never going to get married. She's never going to have a life.
Let's be honest. I mean, in Sweden, she's quite unlikely to get married and have a baby anyway. She's more likely to sort of become a thought and bend over for refugees.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of Christianity. We were all degenerates. We have to hope and hope in grace. Even until the last moment, until she closes her eyes, because on that logic, let's massacre African children, because they'll grow up to be human apes. They will grow up to be human apes, but if there's a 1% chance.
I know. I'm just making a point that Sweden is. This is happening to Sweden. There's a reason this is happening to Sweden and not happening to Hungary, because Sweden has a certain mentality and a certain disposition that Hungary does not. And boy, I mean, have Hungary and Poland been completely vindicated now that we know this war is going to last longer than
You
we
mean
thought?
those Nazi countries?
Yeah, those Nazi countries with their Nazi borders.
Oh
Borders
my
be
God.
racist, yo.
Orban's like shutting down Soros's universities now. It's crazy. I want to move there. I'm going to literally move to Hungary.
I'm still waiting for a liberal article on self-preservation is racist. I'm seriously waiting for the first liberal to get this idea and write how our survival instinct is racist.
I think they already have.
Wasn't there some alt-right website that put out like a challenge to the trolls to see if you could actually get the most ridiculous article published in some
I
liberal
can
publication?
kind of
Like,
get an angle on this because I would phrase it as if, well, these instincts evolved in a time when tribal warfare was normal, and now we need to surpass them because the world is globalizing.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
I'm back. Sorry,
that sounds like what?
I just had to step out for a bit.
Okay, it's fine.
He's fighting rattlesnakes by throwing whiskey bottles and shooting them.
Stumbling
I
with his boots.
had a picture. I'll put it in the chat. Where is it?
Somebody poisoned the watering hole.
Oh,
Here.
dude.
I think you're
that's
posting it to the wrong
painfully true.
chat. Are you on your phone right now, Delta?
Wait,
Yes,
Oh,
it's
God.
the Happy Merchant Trump picture. I've seen that.
Yeah. I saw it. I was like, yes.
When you
We can have Syria at that point.
All right, all right.
I'm going to call Jared Kushner.
Let's cut the.
Oh, that hurts my heart.
I
wonder-
I wanted to say something. I'm sorry, there's too many people talking, but let me just say I wanted to comment on something that Mark was saying earlier about how the alt-right has been consistent in criticizing Trump and refusing to be on board with Trump's stuff. I mean, they've really always been that way, I think. I mean, like during the election when Trump was kind of talking soft on immigration and talking about he might soften his views on immigration.
Yeah.
I remember
Jazz
on
hands.
Bash the Nation. Yes, Jazz Hands. He's like, look, pal, if you're not gonna keep your promise on immigration, we don't need you, pal. And even
Well,
when
Jazz Hands isn't dumb, and he knew that someone from close to Trump listened to Fash the Nation.
well,
Yeah.
but I mean, I think he also believed it though. He was saying what he meant.
Yeah. But the outrage, the public outrage, because they were a serious news show. They weren't as emotional or as shitposty as the other shows on TRS, and he let that burst go off.
But there is a difference between when a campaign's ongoing and when you've actually achieved victory in that campaign. At which point you're trapped. You can't switch to somebody else. You are stuck with the guy who you got elected. And you can already see, that's why I'm quite surprised that the alt-right has dropped him like a hot rock, whereas, alt-light, different story. I mean, Paul Joseph Watson came out straight after this happened and said, I'm off the Trump train. Even said, what was it, Rand Paul 2020. So he wanted to primary Trump. Now he's out with a new tweet saying, no, this is fake news. They're misinterpreting what I said. This is a witch hunt. No, I'm totally back on. I'm on the Trump train. You've got Stockholm syndrome, Paul Joseph Watson. You're a complete fraud at this point.
Med-resistant AIDS, buddy.
Well, it does work for Alex Jones. He does have to toe the company line. What's Alex's take on this?
I think Alex has actually been even. He's gone further than Paul. Yeah, he's trying to apologize for Trump by saying, Trump's being sort of manipulated by people around it. He's really gone after Kushner and Ivanka as being sort of the master manipulators behind the scenes. But the fact is, if Trump's being manipulated, then he's weak and malleable and therefore of no use.
Well, Paul Joseph Watson just gets a little bit, he gets a little bit weird when he's hanging out in the vibrant gay section of some, some old European city. So that might have been what was happening when he had that little bout of confusion.
A little bout of confusion. I think it was more sort of people tweeting him saying, how can you drop the Trump train just because of one disagreement?
Well, that's World War III is a pretty big disagreement.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, I don't think it's that I don't think the alt-right has totally abandoned Trump. It's just that they're saying we don't support this. If Trump still wants to build the wall, if Trump still wants to get tough on immigration, we'll take it, but we're not going to We're not going to be.
Let's narrow the tent. Let's narrow the tent a little. Because
I don't want to be black-pilled about this stuff, though. I mean, we need to still maintain hope for what we can get. I mean, just allowing yourself to give up is, I think,
Trump could not even repeal Obamacare. He could not even do that. It is literally still the law of the land today.
Well, that's the problem. Conservatives abandoned him on Obamacare. He needed the votes of the Tea Party conservatives, so he moved to the left.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But if he can't get them on that, what the hell is he going to get them to the wall?
Oh, someone's things playing in the background.
Sorry, that was me.
Listen, how many times over the past few years have Republicans voted to repeal Obamacare? How many times?
To repeal dozens.
Yeah, dozens, literally dozens. They have now the majorities to do it, and they can't do it. The wall is supported by less freaking Republicans than repealing Obamacare is. How the hell is he supposed to get that paid through? I honestly think it's all just... It's a BS
Mr.
show.
Citadel, believe me.
No, hold on a second.
And his attempt was weak sauce, let's be honest.
The promises he made, staying out of Syria was the easiest one to keep because it required him to do absolutely nothing. Didn't require him to build a coalition, didn't require any expenditure of political capital or resources. It required him to literally do nothing. He couldn't even do that. So to still have sort of faith that he's going to do all the other things he said in the campaign, I honestly think it was a vacuum salesman shtick. I can't believe it anymore. For this is somebody who people have been sharing all over Twitter his tweets from 2013.
Even if you get
boy, life comes at you fast, doesn't it?
That's a perfect analogy of vacuum salesman, because even if you get a good deal on it, you still get something that sucks.
Well, Trump's not one of us. I'm not disappointed because I never saw him as an ideologue. He ran with the conservatives. They BTFO'd them. So he said, okay, I'm moving to the center and working with Democrats more often. He's a businessman. He wants to basically stay afloat. He doesn't care. You guys are principled. You guys are far better people than those fuckers running you. And that's, sorry, Mr. Ian, for cursing, but that's what you don't see. I know businessmen, they're scumbags. They don't think like you guys.
Yeah, this is kind of a point I made in my article. You cannot put faith in these bourgeois populists.
Good term.
Well, I'm sorry, but this is just the case. We're already ruled by a bourgeois class. So you're putting faith in the bourgeoisie to save you from the bourgeoisie.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Communists were right about the bourgeoisie.
They were they were right. It's just they had a retarded idea that you could get rid of the bourgeoisie and then have the proletariat rule themselves, which is just utterly stupid.
Let's do what Satan did. Let's rebel against the natural order.
Yeah, let's replace another materialist system with another materialist system. Gee, that works out so well.
You take Donald Trump and you compare him to somebody who's like actually a historical example of an actual leader who inspired in people the will to die for them, to fight for them.
Well, he is certainly no St. Louis.
He's no Riviera. He's no Codriano. He's
not an El Duce by no means.
No, by no means. He's not even a Perón. I mean, it's quite sad. Here's the thing. If you go back and look at the things I wrote about Trump over the period of his campaign, I from the beginning put little stock in his promises about a wall, etc., because those promises have been made by every Republican. The one thing I put stock in was his foreign policy perspective of moving away from unipolarity, moving away from nation building, from hegemony, which has caused nothing but misery in the Middle East and decay and decadence in Europe. Because it's a position that he held throughout the campaign for no political gain. He could have abandoned that position and not really lost any votes.
And it was truly unique in terms of...
that was the one thing he wouldn't change, remember. They criticized him on it. He would never budge from it. He never changed his... they criticized, they said, oh, you're a Russian plant, you're being paid by Russia. He never went, oh, no, actually, I hate Russia. No, he's stuck on that point when he could have easily moved away from it. So my perception of that was, this may be sincere. He may sincerely, have this kind of worldview of the foreign policy of the United States for the past 50 years at least has been an utter disaster for the world, and certainly not, hasn't paid dividends for the people at home.
Well,
but he's, I mean, now look at what he's doing.
It was hinted at previously in right in this podcast that foreign policy change, foreign regime change is a bipartisan agreement. So you're saying that not going to war in Syria was the easiest decision to make. I say it was the hardest because Democrats agree, and half of Trump's voter base, the old right, agrees with that because they're neocons. So it's the safest political decision he's ever made. Believe me.
Here's the thing: I don't think that most Democrats support the war. Honestly, I don't. I know a lot of people sort of say that their anti-war credentials are quite fickle.
Maybe the voters, but the politicians certainly.
Yeah, no. I'm speaking of the raw base. Obviously there's a degree of
not the
Republican
base.
base that is war hawkish. Obviously.
Okay, so my Facebook is paused to hell with liberals.
Oh yeah,
still actually having a Facebook account.
Yeah,
I live in a
2017
area, and I can tell you that everyone is pretty much.
I am.
Hold on. Britton, are you still talking about Facebook?
Yeah, I was saying. I mean, I've got several friends on there, and most of them are your typical college,
pause loads.
Yeah, college pause loads. Your typical graduate types. And I mean, they're crying about the poor dead babies and stuff like that. Again, from a group of people who want state-sponsored infanticide. But moving on, these people are saying, the poor dead babies, and then they're like, hey, we need to invade them. We need to do what America. They're funny because they sound a lot like the Republicans, the neocons did 10 years ago. Like, we're gonna blood for blood.
The thing is, these things do fluctuate. I mean, if you remember, prior to World War II, the Republican base was very isolationist. Did not want to get involved in war at all. It was only after that you had the emergence of the neocons later, in response to the Cold War, who wanted to get involved everywhere. And now that infects. Really infests.
Well, the neocons
that infests
the
people like Bill Mitchell. Now, I mean, Bill Mitchell's another scumbag.
But how are the American people not noticing the ethnicity of every warmonger in their country? Seriously,
they support it.
Because you had good old boy conservatives prior to the 60s, and then there's a massive purge in a party, a sudden change of doctrine and direction, and they just don't. It's like invasion of the body snatchers, and nobody notices.
Oh yeah, no.
Well, the thing is, they get Goyish frontmen to do it, like McCain or Lindsey Graham or
Look, you can hear my hands rubbing together.
Evan McMullen, those guys.
Even beyond that, though, I mean, they have a safety net of the fact that they have several safety nets behind them. One, you can't touch them because insert ridiculous number here. You can't touch me because I'm X and X chosen, what's not, and just they've got so many safety nets, and on top of that. People like again, my father, he doesn't want to believe that, that's the truth. In fact, you can even just start saying like, hey, I actually mentioned the Holodomor, and he didn't know anything about that. Shocker, right?
Maybe you should read in the Talmud.
That's a myth. Gavin McInnes said so.
Well, yeah. Well, so I just mentioned the Holodomor, and he was like, "What's that?" And I was like, "Oh, that." And I tried, honestly, I've kind of given up on that battle of trying to wake him up to the Jew because I know he'll never wake up. But with the Holodomor,
maybe reading the Talmud.
Yes, I practice it. In fact, with the Holodomor, you just can't deny the fact that those creatures had their mitts in the whole thing. But I didn't say it in a really offensive way. I just said it's when a bunch of communists and Jewish commissars slaughtered like 9 million Christians. And
we can point that stuff out a lot more freely here.
Right, and the moment I said that, he was like, "Oh well, I'm not getting into this conversation tonight."
What kind of response is that?
That's kind of response of somebody who has severe what is it? Cognitive dissonance. Somebody who just can't. Somebody.
Severe cowardice. It sounds like.
It's
Oh, I'm not going to talk. I'm just not going to talk about that.
I live in an area with mostly Republican voters, and most people are very much in favor of foreign intervention. They want to remove anybody that they can. They actively talk about how much they'd love to use nuclear weapons. I mean, it's not. This is not outside.
The thing is, they've never experienced
mainstream. No, they have not, and it's pure jingoism. But these are people who vote.
Oh yeah. By the way.
Yeah. I bet you'll find support for war is much lower in places where there's a lot of street violence and stuff. You go and take a poll in Southside Chicago, see how many people are in favor of interventions. I think you might be surprised.
On the south side of Chicago, most people don't really think about geopolitics.
Yeah, probably not, but still.
Oh yeah. By the way, guys, one more thing. This is gonna freaking floor you guys. Guess what my dad, claims as his political affiliation.
Republican?
Not at all. He claims I'm
a constitutional conservative.
I'm a constitutional libertarian.
Ooh.
Sorry, man.
Edgy.
I'm saving my energy not to make a touching joke.
Don't cut yourself on that edge there. as opposed to a non-constitutional libertarian, I suppose.
Right. What you got?
What do you guys think is the theological motive for the Jews? I mean, in God's larger plan, are they just an example? This is what happens when you're chosen and you stray from the light. You turn into these mangled creatures, subversive. What do you think?
Well, E. Michael Jones would say that they rejected the Logos.
Yeah, I agree. But what's God's larger plan with them? Because he knew about the Jews the moment he started the universe 13 billion years ago. So what's his plan? Are they just an example for
they're
us?
going to be converted at the end of days, and that's why Bernardo Clairvaux said pretty much just leave them alone.
I don't think you can. They're so evolved as social parasites and urbanites. How do you bring them back?
You get them out of the society that you're in and get them somewhere else away from you. Yeah.
The Jews are the greatest example of a quote. I'm not sure who it was by, but I'm gonna take a wild gander at Thomas Aquinas. He said that what is it? For someone who's saved, there's no argument that can make them stray, and for somebody who isn't saved, there's no evidence that will save them. It has to be up to them and the Holy Spirit.
Well,
they don't seek to know
my
the
question
truth.
was not about saving the Jews. My question was why the Jews? Why have a chosen people that for the first half of the book the creator of the universe was watching over them, and then they've fallen so far? Are they just fodder to serve as an example for us? Don't do that, because that's how you'll wind up.
They certainly are an example. Yeah, that's the main. I'd say that's the main purpose. But I mean, also you got to look at it in a temporal context. They provide, and indeed the whole tale of the Old Testament provides the lead up to the New Testament. It's essential that to fully understand the New Testament in context, you have to understand everything that's gone on before among this people, among all the prophets who warned them, who they killed. Among all the different times that they spurned God and they hated God and they did wicked things and God punished them for it. You have to understand that history to actually fully understand the New Testament. But it's all their free will.
All right. I think I heard something along the lines of, the Old Testament is okay. What is it? The New Testament is the Old Testament revealed, and the Old Testament is the New Testament. Oh, jeez, I can't remember how it goes.
Concealed?
No, I'll have to look it up. But yeah, go ahead and continue. I'm gonna look that up real quick.
So I think it's sad, but it does serve as a chilling example, because there's something so pure and Jewish nihilism, and the way they master the earth. They really, this is their world. However, they stop here. The gates are closed to them, and it's a symphony of sin with these people. Honestly, they master economics and every field of science they get into. They're at the top of it. They're so good at ruling this world, and yet they're miserable and neurotic, and they have to live just like a vampire by destroying other people. Isn't that such a sad state of being? I genuinely pity them, and this is not me being facetious. I genuinely pity them to be forced to live your existence as a vampire.
Yeah, well, they are a curse. That's what most.
And I
of
would
the
know.
saint,
I'm Romanian from Transylvania.
Yeah, you would know. Are you actually from the Transylvania region?
Yeah, I'm Transylvanian.
Oh, right. That's cool.
Transylvania. That's more how you guys think we talk like Hispanics.
Oh, some people probably think you're Transylvania's Hungarian.
That's just the puppet. No one actually thinks that's how you laugh.
1, 2, 3.
You know,
So go on, Mr. Mark. Sorry for the digression.
I just think it's funny that you think Hispanics laugh like that.
Oh, I was gonna bring something about my parents and the Jews. They're very strongly pro-Israel, and any kind of criticism of the Jews, they freak out as anti-Semitism. I can't even be careful what you say, because even she agrees with me about there's crooked Jews in Wall Street, but she still wants me to be very careful. And I'm just thinking you can't really. So among my family, I can't generally call anything like this out. I'd be labeled as an anti-Semite, and that I need to get right with God.
I have more respect for Hispanics than most of the Americans.
How about you tell them that the Jews need to get right with God? How about you say that?
I don't think they dispute that, but they don't. I don't think they would dispute that.
Oh no, the thing is, there's plenty of American Christians that do. So I should say so-called Christians.
Well, they would agree with me that
say
religious
they don't need to be saved. They don't need to come to God. Actually, they've got some sort of private method of salvation, which is utter heresy.
Okay, so
tell that to the Apostle Paul.
Can be. That's what most of them believe. And again, I mean, getting into American Christianity, for many of them, Christianity is less a religion, and it's more of a feel-good session. It's a chance to feel better about yourself.
It's quote-unquote cultural Christianity, which isn't Christianity in the lightest, because to have culture of Christianity, you have to have the spirit of Christianity. You can't, to mimic something, have something that's dead, mimic something that's alive, that thing is still dead.
Well,
I think it's more than
Christianity feeds liberalism, because liberals just that's the problem. Liberals were raised in a Christian society where everyone has this conscience, this very powerful feeling to do good, and it differs from the Asian honor concept, because you are supposed to do good even when nobody's watching, and this comes directly from Christianity, and they assume that this is a part of human nature. These foolish people don't realize that other countries don't have the civic duty as us, and that's why they think that every Arab is actually Einstein, and we just have to throw money at them.
Yeah, we just need to have universal human rights, and everyone's gonna behave the same way.
Yeah, they think that this part of Christianity is actually a part of human nature, which is a testament to the success of our religion. However, it's killing people.
Well, I want to talk. I was going to bring up this point that a lot of these kind of same egalitarian centrists, whatever whatever you want to call it, the skeptics, is that they think that every other culture that does not practice their values are just savage barbarians because they don't defend the gays and have gender equality.
Well, that's the thing that I read an article on recently, was relativism. The fact that they use relativism, like at home, they say that they use relativism against people, but abroad they'll never practice relativism really, because they'll always want to, impose. And I use the example of the fact that the British government, they didn't give a shit about Bangladeshi migrants raping British schoolgirls in Rotherham. But the Taliban's treatment of schoolgirls, that's still used as a justification for the good war in the Middle East. It's utterly pathetic.
Well, this speaks to the different mindsets between conservatives and liberals, because conservatives are inherently skeptical and pessimistic about the nature of humans, and liberals are optimistic. They think that the basic human is Jesus Christ, and every sin is a count of something else. It's the environment, it's the government, it's the education.
Men are desperately wicked. How many times do I have to mention how long it took for the Jews to go from following God, doing what they were supposed to do at the base of Mount Sinai? Moses went to the top, got the Ten Commandments from God, came down. In 14 days, they were putting people in braising bulls and roasting them. 14 days.
Worshipping golden calves.
Say again?
Worshipping
the golden calf.
Yeah, the whole golden calf thing. It took 14 days, 2 weeks for them to go completely reprobate.
Yeah. So humans aren't. Listen, you can't trust humans around a cake. Seriously, you can't trust humans to regulate their calorie intake, and you can trust them with geopolitics and human souls. I can't control myself from smoking, and this is the most basic stuff. I can't trust myself. Humans are inherently flawed and sinful.
But they're
why
also
don't these liberals
differentiated.
get it? Excuse
They're
me?
not the same. They're also differentiated. They're not the same, is the thing. And that's one of the things. They want to standardize everything. They want to standardize people to say that people are, you can exchange one person with another person. It doesn't really make a difference. You can exchange a man with a woman. You can exchange a Syrian with a Greek. You're not going to make any difference to it.
Yeah, because liberals believe that babies are born, they're Jesus. They're perfectly moral beings, and the environment ruins them. So you equalize the environment.
Yeah, they're all equal. I mean, they're born equal. This is their craziness. The whole craziness is the situation of humanity, the idea of humanity itself. I mean, Carl Schmitt said, whenever anybody says to you humanity, he lies, because it just doesn't apply to anything. There's nothing in which humanity can really have a meaningful effect upon.
Exactly.
Because everyone is differentiated depending on their genetics, depending on their background, depending upon their, the constitution of their soul. It's not a tabula rasa. It's not a something that they can design and mold to their will.
Yeah, and it is virtuous, the more inherently sinful, because I do believe people have predispositions for certain sins. The more inherently sinful you are and you resist it, the more virtuous that is. So I'm not a big drinker, so if I don't drink, it's nothing. But if an alcoholic refuses to drink, that's a virtuous act, because he's rolling the boulder up a hill. And
indeed.
God tests. Go on.
Yeah, indeed. I'm just agreeing with you. Go ahead.
Oh, God tests your character with these flaws, and they're not to be embraced. In fact, they are your test in this life. And you're not, it's not, it may be that you're born a little twisted, a little sick, a little aggressive, or whatever your sin may be, and you have to fight against it.
And that's your answer. That's your answer, Gregory. If we're going to look for a purpose, for this, for the eternal, who, it's like, perhaps, at least in the context of our people, our civilization, it does seem like we constantly need to learn how to be virtuous again. That's one of our weaknesses.
Well, those are our people. I was just wondering why make the Jews and have them as these examples for eternity.
I think you've got your answer there. I think that you look at what was it Codrianu said, they're like mosquitoes, in that in the same way mosquitoes can only thrive and settle in swamps, so too can these people only thrive in the swamps of our sins.
Yeah, and they must. They're too smart not to look in a mirror now and then and say, "Oh my God, we're." And you kind of get the self-deprecation that's actually true. In many movies, the Jews actually make fun of how soulless and degenerate and monstrous Hollywood is, for example, and they have to know. They're too smart not to know that they're spreading pornography, they're ruining economies. Yeah, and there isn't a human in this world that doesn't have doubts. Even I wonder, am I doing the right stuff? Am I fueling something bad or something good?
If it's any con, you know, people know where they're.
Here's a nice question. Would you sacrifice your soul to save your people? So if you had to, for example, become the next Vlad the Impaler, so your country can live free and strong, but you would go to hell for your deeds, would you do it?
I don't believe you go to hell for your deeds. I think
Well,
that's a
torture
profoundly Islamic or Judaic view of
I think
redemption. You're redeemed by Christ's victory. You're not redeemed by your works. Your works are filthy rags in the eyes of the Lord.
I still view what Vlad did as necessarily righteous. You're fighting for your country, your people, and the honor and your future, not for not to be.
So maybe this is just lingering liberal guilt in me that sees this.
Well, no. Hey, you shouldn't feel that way about it. I mean, if you go back and look at legionary texts, they talk about this. They actually use those words. They say we're willing to sacrifice our souls even to save our nation, because they associated already in the liberal paradigm the things that they would have to do, i.e. there were certain assassinations that had to take place. They associated those with murder, and I think it's because they had already unknowingly, unwittingly been tricked into the liberal the idea of the falsehood, what I'd say, of Christian pacifism, the idea that there's never any there's never any reason to use violence, and that you can't have the idea that you forgive your enemy applies to all kinds of enemies. Anybody, even in war, you can apply that, and you should forgive them. And this is often obviously used against us in the contemporary world. It's utter nonsense. As Ivan Ilyin said, when Christ said to forgive your enemies, he was referring to your personal enemies, not the enemies of God. And I think the people that the Legion fought were the enemies of God. And I think the people that Vlad the Impaler fought in his context, by the way, in the context of what he was doing and in his nation and everything, those were the enemies of God's.
But I found the scripture.
I think that Christian soldiers need to have you on speed dial, and whenever they're experiencing that, they should call you up, and you should comfort them.
Yeah, this is not some new age interpretation I'm giving you. This is what most Christians throughout history, how they interpreted that text. I'm really sick of this meme that goes around that Christians throughout history had no understanding of their religion. They obviously, many of them couldn't read the Bible, but they had no understanding of what Jesus really taught, and that they just didn't know that he taught to forgive your enemies. No, they just had a far more nuanced and better understanding, because they were closer to the time period when it was actually written, when it actually happened, than we do today. Today, we completely misinterpret Scripture.
I think Christ tells disciples to also buy a sword.
I think the average person in the Middle Ages would know a lot more about Scripture than the average evangelical today.
Yeah. They'd know a lot more about applied theology in general than the average.
Yeah, they would know less about the text itself, but they knew more about the holy tradition.
They wouldn't be able to quote you chapter and verse like some autists do today, when you occasionally get into arguments with these people, and they try to sort of, I call it Talmudic argumentation. They try to sort of, well, what about this verse, guy? It's
you
like,
neither Jew nor Greek. Didn't you read your Bible?
Well, and it comes from that mentality, really, that I kind of have dissented from, the idea that anybody should interpret things for themselves, because I think you end up with a million different interpretations. And I favor
verse is not a bad argument.
Into the history and looking at how people interpreted in the past, closer to the period where it actually happened, is a way to understand its context. Go back and look at what the great saints of the church who established the doctrine, what they believed about Scripture. And
we have many romantic writers that actually retreated in this and used the medieval Romanian village as basically a place of paradise, a place of almost an Eden-like quality where time stood still. Yeah. Your romantics retreated more into fantasy, like C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, and ours just retreated in places that even exist even today. So I see these people living the tradition. Of course, there's drinking and partying, but much less innocent than
Much
their
less than in
day-to-day.
Bucharest, right?
Yeah. Their day-to-day life is plowing fields and working and carrying corn on their backs, and it was very idyllic, and I grew up surrounded by it, and only now I understand the value of it, and people would pay money to have that.
That's why I say that, your average medieval peasant, honestly had, not just a better understanding of God, but just a better understanding of, life, just in general.
I have a theory. I think Tolkien was so good at writing because he wrote two major sieges in The Lord of the Rings. It reflected because after World War I, Christianity was dying, and not because of degeneracy like today. It was dying because the war broke people. It shattered their soul. They just wanted to run out the clock and live for as much enjoyment as they can before they die. And the lights were going out all over Europe, and these people decided, dudes, we're losing the foundation of our society, and they decided to start rebuilding it, to resurrect the spirit of Christianity, and they did it. It only lasted a few years until the 60s, I guess, but they did it. They actually managed to bring that spark of beauty and wisdom and knowledge and light back.
Well, that's when we got Mere Christianity from C.S. Lewis from his radio talks during the war.
Yeah, and C.S. Lewis, I think, was converted by Tolkien, even though there were different religions.
Look at the fact that something like Mere Christianity was deemed necessary should tell you the state that we're in.
True. That's actually very true.
Yep, you're right.
My problem is that we need to... Oh, go on. Sorry.
I should say it's not the... When we say, for instance, that the medieval peasant had a better understanding of God, it's not... That rests on the idea that really an understanding of God does not come from your knowledge of Scripture. It comes from an encounter with the living God in your heart and in your mind and in your soul. And they had that because the society, the foundations of their society were actually built, wittingly or unwittingly, around that encounter and around making sure that happened.
Even if you are just talking Scripture and familiarity with Christianity in general, the average peasant or whomever, he saw the stained glass windows telling the different stories from the Bible. He heard these stories every single day. These stories were interwoven into the entire culture. Now you could take a random story from the Old Testament, tell it to somebody, and they'll say, "What's that from?"
Yeah, most kids in the UK think that Santa Claus was present at the Nativity. It's quite shocking.
We need, as soon as people, if we can do this, we'll pull off a miracle. If we can get liberals to realize that the compassion of the society that they love so much is actually a Christian idea, they will cling to Christianity with everything they have. They have this baby Jesus theory, and that's what's making them discard Christianity, because they love tolerance and they think, oh, every person's inherently tolerant, or that humanism, which is actually Christianity without Christ, can prosper. Christian tolerant society cannot continue without Christianity. And if we get this message across, we've won another generation, another 50 or 40 years, like Tolkien won the World War I generation.
I think that is really optimistic. I think it's going to require much more than that. And I think that if you want to have any success with people other than yourselves, you're going to have to make a very conscious effort to live that day in and day out. And you have to be the one that when everything goes awry, people are going to have to turn to you because you're the only one who has their shit together.
Exactly. Yeah, I think you're exactly right.
Well, we were talking about this before the podcast went live. What now? I was proposing that politics was never our game. Just like Codriano said, Codriano worked with local communities. We need to network, because these people, if they get power, will hunt each and every us down and get us fired and destroy our lives. Just like there's a dark net, we need to make a dark enlightenment community, a web of jobs, of support, of talking, of friendships, of marriages. We need to form a network that's independent from the mainstream. Until then, we're nothing.
Yes, if we want to remove the degeneracy and things like that from the culture, we have to first purge them from ourselves. And we have to realize that that's the only way we're going to affect any substantial change. We're going to have to forego things like usury and a lot of times the popular culture.
If we choose a Jewish strategy, like the Jews did, infiltrating institutions, having nepotism for your own people, most reactionaries are high IQ people. Because just read what they wrote. It's enough. It's enough to prove that. So we can rise up through the ranks, but we need to hold the ladder for other reactionaries. We need to show preference, and we can think of smart ways to do that. But we need a network. We need to be more than podcast friends.
I don't think it's a question of rising up through the ranks, because I think that's actually the lesson to take away from this whole Trump thing, is that a lot of people put their faith in Bannon and certain other people who I'd say, certain things they've said over the years and done allude to maybe more of an understanding of closer to where we would be, for example, on the political spectrum. What does it turn out? It turns out he actually had no power. I mean, do you remember all those articles saying that Steve Bannon was actually the real president? That he was secretly running everything?
Yeah.
And a lot of people believe that. I heard that all the time from normies.
Will those be redacted? Will those be retracted now from the various places that put them out? I doubt it. But
no, they're going to continue making
just proves
everything they don't like.
Did you listen to the Daily Show about the Boers, Mr. Mark?
No.
Well, at one point it explains how apartheid came to be. The Boers were at one point the lowest caste in their society. They had no representation, no nothing. So they actually formed the secret cabal, this Illuminati type organization, in which they basically became Jews. They gradually infiltrated.
Yeah, it was the Bruder Bund.
Yeah. And they infiltrated, and they actually got apartheid. They, for a short while, until the weight of the whole planet came down crashing on them, they actually managed from nothing to build an apartheid state. And that's what I'm saying. We need to have each other's back. We need to know each other like these secret cabals know each other.
Yeah.
Well, not like that, because they're probably fags, but you get the point.
Yeah,
what do you think you'll find is that it's not so much about rising through the ranks. It's like was said, when things go to shit,
offering each other a job.
I think the idea
are you able to do that?
Is more about placing less the leftist games than we should.
Look at the support woes, guys.
Very open with what we're doing, and I think we need to let everyone see what we're doing. It's the people who are going to find themselves on the right path have a road to walk to. I mean, with things, there's a lot going on right now. We've got all these international things going on. We've got this serious drug crisis in the United States. Those people are going to need someone to turn to, and we need to make sure that we're ready to step in the cracks when we're called upon.
Yeah. When things go to utter shit, when they completely collapse, when everything goes, when you call 911 and nobody answers, what does society revert to? It doesn't revert to the state of nature. It reverts to the organic type of civilization. If you destroyed all the power, infrastructure, and everything of America overnight, what government do you think would emerge? Obviously, on a regional level, you couldn't govern nationally.
Well, racial based, just like in prison.
Well, no, not even that. Well, obviously that would come to, but it would be autocratic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would not be a democracy.
Yeah,
you could not form a democracy.
No.
The people with the most resources, the people with the most smarts, things like that, they would become effectively the new aristocratic class.
We need to make ourselves.
I'm gonna commit political suicide. I'm gonna commit political suicide and praise the Anglos for a moment, because they're.
Oh, please don't.
Lord.
unless you are going to go back and actually praise the Arthurian Anglo tradition.
I love.
That was what I'm saying. You never had Asian type despots where the god king is the ruler. You had the first among equals mentality. So the king realized, if I give other people a share, a stake in the society, and I'm not a complete jerk to everyone, while remaining the monarch and the king, it will be a much more organic situation. Because you had nobility, but it wasn't that far out, that all powerful. wasn't
It depends on the era. It depends on the era you're looking at. I actually think the biggest difference that you see in the English history in particular, I can't speak for Scotland or Wales, but English history, if you go back to the Arthurian period, and I'm not sure around what time this ends. Maybe it's around Magna Carta this comes to an end. But it's the fact that kingship is very much tied to the land. It's very much about the king's relationship with, and you can actually see this in a great movie about
goes
the
further than
Arthurian
that,
legend.
actually. It goes well into the Elizabethan era, and that's one reason why, for instance, this happened in England and France. It's one reason why kings and queens moved about the land very frequently. They didn't really stay at one palace like you would imagine Versailles with Louis XIV. The king, the royal entourage, they were constantly on the move between town to town because there was a lot of kingdom to go through. That lasted well into the 17th century.
Yeah, because I think that is actually objectively the healthy orientation. I call it the continental orientation. It's the orientation towards land rather than sea.
Yes.
And then England, obviously.
And if you look at conservative, so to speak, as opposed to the more Whiggish elements in society, especially in English society, that was one of the things they severely lamented. It's an interesting fact that although Whiggism prevailed in English history, English literature at that time is dominated by people we would consider Tories. And that is one of the biggest complaints that people like Pope, Goldsmith, Johnson had. The idea that this moneyed interest had overtaken land.
Yeah. But that itself was the mentality of the sea. This is where England is really developing its overseas sort of mercantile.
That's right.
Empire, and it's a completely. I'll just call it what it is. It's proto-capitalistic.
Mercantile.
It's merchantry. It's based on trade.
It's Goldsmith's The Deserted Village. If you get a chance to read that, it is a very well-written response to the idea of moneyed interest overtaking the idea of public land and things like that.
Yeah, this spirit of the orientation towards the sea is what Britain had with the British Empire, and then when that collapsed, this spirit was inherited by America.
Well, there are a couple of
America
countries
is now this primarily Atlantic type power, rather than being a power that's really tied to the land. And this dispute between the sea and the land goes all the way back to Carthage and Rome.
Oh,
as G.K. Chesterton observed, Christ was born in the Roman Empire. It makes sense then to think that the Antichrist would be born in the Carthaginian Empire, which would be, going forward today, it would be somewhere where there was that kind of sea-based orientation that was consumerist, that was materialistic, that didn't have a value for the land itself.
I was going to say that I know Venice and Portugal were mercantile powers. Portugal longer than Britain.
Portugal, yeah, I wouldn't say Portugal. Portugal didn't really become as successful, though. I think Britain, Britain, I don't know how much of the world it at one point held.
Oh, yeah,
but Britain is responsible for fucking up a lot of the world.
Oh, Britain was far more successful than the Portuguese.
Well, the
Portuguese at last.
Well, Portuguese got screwed in whatever that treaty was that divided the Americas.
Hold on a second, hold on. Too many people talking. What were you saying, Mark?
Oh, I was just saying Portugal kind of got screwed by whatever that treaty was that divided America.
You mean South America, right?
Yeah, because they didn't think to figure out how big it actually was before they divided it, which is an odd.
Yeah.
Portugal got Africa, and that's where its mercantile aspect came into play. Believing them with Africa, I want to speak on something. Was it the new state? Was it during the Salazar era, during the decolonization? They didn't give up one colony. They were forced to give it up.
Yeah.
For the most part. Because they thought, this is part of our country. We're not going to let a bunch of foreign powers come carve us up for anti-colonialist little pity party junk.
And were the Italian states then Carthaginian empires, like you said?
The Italian states have always been kind of weird, because obviously Italy itself as just a whole entity is relatively new, whereas you have various bits and pieces of it going back. I kind of consider Italy a fake country, to be honest. It's like
Venice.
Yeah, it should really be broken up.
It's
obvious that people are very
Italian
differentiated
across different dialects. Sicilian sounds nothing like a lot of the other languages in Italy.
Well, I know the Venetians have their own language.
Yes, there's quite a few languages in Italy. The Italian that you hear is a hybrid between Tuscan and Milanese.
No, but we're straying from the point. Are they as subversive merchants as the other ones? Because they don't
I don't
seem
think
like
so.
that to me.
I don't. Well, oh no, that's actually a good point. Because if you go back and look at it, you did have at the one point the Medici popes.
Oh,
Who were, I mean,
God.
that basically represented the trade, the mercantile tradition, basically overcoming the I would say was the patristic religious, the Brahmin tradition of the Catholic Church, and actually threatening its initiatic character for a long time, and probably was the reason that we got Protestantism after that, because of obviously all the doctrinal shenanigans that went on there.
Yeah, well, Martin Luther
Pope Leo
comes right during the reign of Leo X, who is a Medici Pope.
Yeah. Yeah, that was the one that my dude was like, hey, that's not cool.
Your dude?
Luther was an anti-Semite.
I mean, Charles should have burned him when he had
God!
Yeah, Martin Luther.
Well, a lot of Jews still hate Luther because they're the whole on the Jews and their lies.
Most American Protestants don't know about that book. It's very funny.
Yeah, that's not talked about. Hush, hush.
Right. No,
he was still saying the same stuff that, you know, the Jews are not special. They need to convert to Christianity like others too, or else they're
he basically said go and burn down their synagogues.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember we were talking about this off the air after a recent hangout, how, like, in a sermon he gave shortly before his death, he was saying that basically, like, the Jews deserve no special favors, they deserve no special treatment. It's like, they're going to hell if they don't accept Jesus Christ, which is a little different than what a lot of evangelicals they believe. Yeah,
That's
I mean, it's true. That's a basic doctrine.
Yeah.
But,
Oy vey, they're chosen though. Like
Pope Leo X was actually the one that was actually issuing those crazy edicts, like what are they called? Indulgences. Hey, buy this piece of paper.
We still have indulgences. That's not
really.
Wasn't new, and it's still.
Well, yeah, it wasn't new, but just the craziness of the types of indulgences.
It was really an abuse of the doctrine of indulgences.
And what I love about Pope Francis is that he's glorifying Martin Luther, but get this, he's doing it so that he can glorify the way that, you know, Martin Luther went against a corrupt church, so that Francis can take a church that's, you know, that may or may not be corrupt and make it corrupt.
Well, he is a Protestant like Pope.
Well, no, he's just a Latin American. He's just a Latin American.
He's a commie.
Even that, I think the biggest thing that influences is the fact that he's not European.
He's a communist faggot turd
an essentially European religion.
He's also a Jesuit. I'm Catholic, so.
Oh yeah, that influences it as well.
Oh, hold on the Jesuit thing. I know like some people in this whole the whole King James thing I kind of come from. Some of them say they think like they basically, you know, some people say the Jews run everything. Them, it's the Jesuits. Put Trump in power. The Jesuits.
The Papist.
Yeah, where I go to mass, those are fighting words. You can call it a Jesuit.
The Jesuits are a very small presence in Romania, but they actually commissioned a lot of asylum centers for refugees, and they disguised them as schools or homeless shelters. And some people actually found out that the Jesuits were commanding one of this, and they went up to it with pitchforks.
I read this
Society
story.
of Jesus that you know today is not the Society of Jesus of Francis Xavier or Ignatius of Loyola. It is a completely different animal.
Yeah, it's completely co-opted. A lot of these institutions have been since World War II.
That's part of the thing, is that you can't, you know, while the church is an institution of God, the people that run it are simply men, and you can't put your faith in men.
Am I foolishly optimistic for liking all Christian denominations except the really heretical ones that deny the Trinity? I mean, I've been to the other side, and I see vastly more difference. When you listen to Bill Maher or watch Family Guy for as many years as I have, you guys, whatever your denomination is, are a breath of fresh air. I'm too happy that people are sane to ever worry about their denomination. I guess when you've been born faithful or lived your whole life like that, it's easier to nitpick. But I'm just in awe of being a Christian, so I don't care. And everyone hates me because I don't fit in with anyone. I like everyone. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Glad to have you back. We were worried that we'd bored you to death and you left.
Oh, the prosperity
you did.
gospel.
Sorry.
Yeah, you did bore me to death.
Speaking of heretics like Gregory, I know like the people like Joel Osteen and this whole prosperity.
Oh,
Oh God, I heard that once on the radio. Like, I think my dad just kind of had it on just because. But I'm thinking like, this guy's a heretic. I couldn't listen to that.
hey, so he's Texan. I can do his accent. So you guys know there is more than one way than Jesus to heaven.
Oh, don't make me be sick.
You can donate lots of money to me.
Give me lots of money. I may as well be the reincarnation of Pope Leo X himself. Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Bobby's faith pick.
Yeah, his whole type of gospel I heard is running amok in Africa from the last podcast you guys did.
Yeah, but it's Africans. It's better than
Pope
nothing.
Leo X reference might offend some of the Catholics in the room.
What's that about Leo X?
You're talking about Joel Osteen?
Yeah, the prosperity gospel thing.
Pope Leo X reference might offend some of the Catholics.
The Catholics. Yeah,
Are
I'm
you
sorry.
on your phone?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to hear you, Sam. It's very muffled.
Potato.
Oh, even on the phone? With the Bluetooth?
Yeah, you're very muffled. Like I can just make out what you're saying, but it's very.
You gotta clean out the earwax from the microphone.
The most advanced country on earth has crap internet.
Yeah.
Right.
Here in Romania, we have 4G to film witch burnings, and you guys don't.
I'm declaring your internet connection to be absolutely haram.
Yeah, it's
Absolutely
You won't
haram.
put up with it.
It's excommunicated.
Yeah.
Was it worse than
Deserves to
last
be
time?
impaled. Sorry, what?
Was it worse than last time?
It's worse than it's ever been.
Oh.
Sounds like you're sort of talking through a didgeridoo.
I love it when we have these moments on this podcast when we all break out in imitation games and sound making. We had a few of those.
Sometimes you have to laugh from crying.
Right. Is that as bad as Louise?
Oh no, not even approaching.
Now Louis has the record.
Okay.
Of the worst what?
He's a legend.
Like he has interference on every single time he gets on the podcast.
Sometimes sounds like he's in a sewer pipe.
It sounds like he's got just
Well, guys, I mean, to be honest, he might just be a gutter oil merchant and he's just doing his part. Like,
Why remind us of that? Oh, I saw that.
I don't even know what that's about, and I don't want to know.
Dude, it's.
Hey, Gregory, tell him.
I said I don't want to know. A gutter oil
I
merchant.
didn't
That
say.
sounds like some horrible gypsy occupation.
I didn't say.
Good. Okay. Well, just
don't trigger Mr. Mark.
You know, hey Mark, did you listen to any of the last hangout we did?
No, I've been a little bit occupied recently, as you might have guessed.
Yeah, but we actually went 8 hours the last time.
Oh wow!
You went 8 hours?
I won't be with you that long.
Yeah, we're not doing that tonight. We're
not
doing
gonna
it.
happen.
No, we're not doing that.
No shot.
We only did it last time because we wanted to see how long we could go if we could actually make it the entire thing, and we did.
Since we've got kind of a lull, Mark, when is your next video?
What?
When is your next video on YouTube?
For crying out loud, I only released one last week.
Oh, did you? I didn't see it. My mistake.
Oh, really? You didn't say? Oh, okay.
Call yourself
Wasn't
Mark
the
Citadel
Rivera
fan?
video the last one?
Call yourself a subscriber.
I haven't. I got a new Google account, so I don't.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, no, I got one out last week. My next video is, it's probably going to be a while because it's going to be much longer than the others. There's really no way of getting around it. The next one's going to be roughly 28 minutes long.
Who's it about?
Oosh.
Ah, that's the secret. My special secret. You'll have to wait and see. But yeah, that should be long in the coming. It'll take it'll take a few months. I think I haven't even really started. Well, I've got it recorded.
Evola. It's Evola. It's
I've already done some
No, he
Evola.
already did Evola.
Yeah, but Evola is the largest topic in reaction.
The largest topic. He's just relatively well cited by me, but no, this is.
It's about an Austrian corporal.
No, like stop guessing because I'm not going to say. So you just have to wait and see, like everybody else. Enjoy the suspense and get more people to subscribe to me.
What's the use of hanging out with you if we don't get benefits? Well, give us them gibs.
No homo. No
gives me
homo.
dads.
No homo.
No gives me that. I'm afraid.
No gives. Absolutely haram.
Silly dindus. Absolutely haram.
I was going to say, by the end of it, I was doing impressions of people. It was that silly. I actually listened back to it. I thought some of my impressions were okay. Like, my Steven Crowder was pretty good.
The bill.
That was spot on.
Have you read the Quran? This thing is very anti-Semitic.
you get his cadence and his way of speaking very well. You don't get his actual voice.
Hitler was a liberal socialist.
Yeah, Hitler. Did you know he was a liberal?
I was like, what?
You know,
literally can't even.
Glenn Beck and his chalkboard. Let me tell you about Woodrow Wilson. Good Lord.
I never watched Glenn Beck. He gives me the creeps. He makes my skin crawl.
I much prefer Michael Savage, to be honest.
Yeah.
Borders, language, and culture.
Yeah.
Michael Savage is what, kind of in a very circuitous, roundabout way, is what led me to, neo-reactionary and alt-right thought. Because
look at that dank talk show host in a Trump hat, fucking beast.
And he's actually a Jew.
Well, speaking of Savage, though, just like Peter Hitchens, a lot of the really good people to read have roots in a lot of these communist or leftist movements. I mean, for instance, Savage was hanging out with Ginsburg and people like that.
Ginsburg.
And he went to UC Berkeley. He got a couple of degrees there.
Look at that base tranny in a Trump hat. I'm just like, no, that's pretty much.
By the way,
do you know a lot of what about craft videos?
No, so you know a lot of the alt-light like the trannies, though, right? Ugh.
You mean like?
Why do people keep on tweeting this tranny Blair something? Why?
I have no idea because they're degenerates.
I think I blocked her on Twitter just because I couldn't. Her hair or him or it. I blocked that thing just because I couldn't.
The only one I ever felt like I had to block was Cernovich. I'm like, too many people are tweeting this guy. He's getting blocked. I blocked Dilbert guy for a while as well.
Yeah, what I will say, Cernovich is.
Hold on, one at a time. Were you saying Delta?
I was saying that some like Blair was like, oh, something on Islamophobia is used. Yeah, I'll take a reason why I should hate Islam from a transsexual degenerate that doesn't believe in Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But fam.
Well, we can all agree that hating Islam is a good thing, but you know what isn't a good thing? Hating Moldavians.
We're not bringing that up again. moving swiftly on from that. And saying, I don't think Cernovich is actually, I've called him out before for being simply like a merchandise salesman. But he is calling this Trump crap out.
Yeah.
Pretty effectively.
Yeah,
so I'll give him points for that because, he doesn't have to.
Cernovich is one of those guys where he does produce some good content. He does put out some good stuff, but it's like you say, he ultimately is, I think...
He's in love with himself.
He's
a bit like Milo. He's a bit like Milo, to be honest.
Yeah. So that's why I kind of feel weird about following him too much because he actually follows me on Twitter.
I don't follow him.
Well, I used to follow him closely.
Has anybody tried out? Sorry. Has anybody tried out his gorilla mindset video set? You know, does it work?
No.
Does it improve your self-confidence?
I haven't bought Mike
Whatever
Savage's yoga.
book video set. Does it improve your self-confidence? Do you make $1 million overnight? Do girls constantly ask for your number?
Yeah, he's like a living pop-up. That's what he is. He's
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I just feel like he's one of those guys who he'll tap into a market for, like, if you find some section of the population that's disaffected, kind of, yeah. Like, I remember, I think it was on Illusion Radio, they were saying that Cernovich got on board with the Gamergate stuff, but before Gamergate, he would write on his blog about how gamers are gay and, like, you're a loser if you just sit and play video games.
Milo did the same thing. He did exactly the same thing.
Didn't Cernovich used to be part of the manosphere?
I guess
part of the pickup artist culture?
A little bit, yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
Not as prolific as somebody like Rouge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or a artiste.
Yeah, or
don't get me started on pickup artist stuff, please.
I can't remember what that pick artist we've got banned from the UK was.
But again, you know, I mean, we. Oh, go ahead, Ian.
No, it's not important. Go on, Lumen.
Well, we hopefully, well, not anyone here, but people in the greater movement learned after Milo, that you don't say, yeah, let's support him for now because he's a good stepping stone. But going back to my reference to Michael Savage, like I was finishing up some credits for school. And I was working all night for about a month, and I was listening to Michael Savage on YouTube, and you get those suggestions in the side. And I got this guy named Australian Realist. I don't know if you guys have seen him. He hasn't produced any content for a while, but it's mostly, race realism. And that led me to American Renaissance, which led me to Ramsey Paul, which, and I'm happy to say I didn't stay there for very long. And I finally found Millennial Woes. So and then I was a vile Nazi vlogger at that point when I found MW. But it does go to show that perhaps someone who stumbles across Cernovich, even though we're not going to sit here and make apologies for him, it does happen. It does happen for some people. They can make that leap.
Yeah, I remember listening to Savage. I used to. The thing is, I used to listen to Mark Levin. Oh my God. And the thing is, he'd always bring up Savage. He'd always bring up this other host.
God, I'm unfollowing you on Twitter
talking about like, oh, there's this other host attacking me.
But Mark Levin has white nationalists
running around with Ginsburg. But he'd always bring Savage up, but I never, so I'd laugh at these jokes, but I never had any idea who Savage was. So one day I decided to Google him and listen to him, and I thought, this guy's actually much more interesting than Mark Levin. I'm going to stop listening to that guy.
He's good for talk radio. I mean, he's still. I
think he's the best person on talk radio, honestly, on American radio.
Yeah, I mean, he's a Jew, and he is more about civic nationalism.
But the thing is, he's not a rabidly sort of I love Israel Jew like Mark Levin, and then like, oh well, Glenn Beck's not Jewish, but he is. Michael Savage, he was actually recently calling out. I listened to a video of him where he's just been addressing this Trump attack on Syria, and he talks about Kushner's influence, and he talks about the Israeli lobby's influence in the White House. And I'm like, wow, based Savage talking about that.
Yeah, I heard him get into it like pretty vociferously, pretty vituperatively.
He's funny, he's addictive to listen to.
Well, no, this was with an Orthodox Jew, so I mean, he's not afraid to mix it up. And I remember he actually, maybe 2006 or so, he got, for I think it was just one night, he got a show on MSNBC, and some gay guy called him.
Yes, I remember this.
Yeah, I remember that. Like,
that was it.
Go choke on a sausage.
Go choke on a sausage.
Go get AIDS and die.
Yeah. It sounds like something Mike Enoch would say.
No, actually,
I can't believe they
isn't
did that.
Hey,
isn't
Josh,
the
you have to
CRS
go? Oh, Josh had to leave. Sorry, go on, Sam.
isn't
Thanks for
the
coming,
CRS like the one that's like only cares about race? They don't care about social liberalism
Yeah,
or
basically.
morality.
TRS, I think they care about social issues too. I mean,
It depends which radio show. There's loads of radio shows under TRS, is the thing. Hosted by
Right.
different people, right?
I mean, I think the Daily Show, they definitely are opposed to degeneracies, or like, which
Yeah.
includes like trans stuff, homosexuality.
The Merchant Minute.
Even
Yeah.
though you had the leaks that happened of TRS.
The
Yeah,
leaks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a joke now. I don't.
Wait, you
really
mean that
freaking-
you mean that Mikey Knox's wife was Jewish, or
Or Google had sex with a tranny. I heard that one.
Is
just
that-
the whole.
do we
the
know
whole
that's
issue
actually
with
true
Paul.
though, or is that?
Who? What tranny? What? What?
No, she did some work. You know, she was like a social media.
No. It's about Ghoul here.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Did
Ghoul.
Ghoul bang a trap?
Oh my! I don't
I've
think
never
that
heard that
happened.
one.
I think the thing about Ghoul was that his parents were lesbians.
Or his mother was a
Well,
lesbian.
Yeah,
If
those
banging
two
a
moms.
Which
trap
I mean, to
doesn't
me,
make you
that's a
right-wing,
stupid
nothing
way to-
will.
That's a stupid reason to attack somebody because you have no control over what your stupid parents do.
Well, I know Google talked about his dad, so he does have a dad. Like, I remember he talked about his
well,
dad.
obviously everybody's got a dad. I mean, he's on the
Well, yeah,
real
but I mean,
bloody parents.
like he had a dad growing up. He wasn't like just raised by
Oh.
two moms.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, that's even sicker. Somebody who's like decides, oh, actually, I really like women. I mean, just into the black hole immediately.
Lesbians don't
But-
read.
So what happened? Was his dad in a polyamorous relationship with two lesbians, and they were the ones mainly raising him? Is that the way it happened?
That's
Just the
I
look
don't-
on my face right now.
I don't really know what the exact details are. I feel like whatever they do in their private lives, it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, if they're not out
Yeah.
promoting it, I don't really care. So I mean, obviously you can't help it if your family's got issues. If you're trying to live your life the right way, if you're trying to promote good things, then I'm not gonna sit and go like, oh, but look, this relative of his is degenerate. I mean, like we probably all have relatives here who are not exemplary,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
we're not gonna sit and promote that or defend that. I mean,
But
I mean,
no, that wasn't the main issue for me. The main issue was it was completely embarrassing, the whole incident, and I mean, it obviously shows that they had not done OPSEC. They had not protected their identities well enough. And B, the whole reason it happened was that they were engaging in some stupid campaign against 8chan's poll. That, I mean, it's just juvenile crap that you'd expect teenagers to be doing. It just showed that they weren't really serious about anything. So I didn't really take TRS that. So I mean, I haven't really encountered anyone recently who frequents it anymore. It seems to be more of a last year type thing.
I'm actually going to be on the next episode of the Godcast, so that's something. For
Oh,
TRS
those
too.
are still on. Like, there's the Godcast, and then I think isn't there one called the Fatherland podcast?
Yeah, they're Catholic, and
Yeah, those are still quite big, but I never hear anyone talk about like the Daily Show really anymore.
Oh, I still listen to it.
Me too.
Yeah, I listened to it tonight.
I also listen to Rebel Yell sometimes.
Yeah, Rebel Yell's good. They had me on. There's a good group of guys.
They had Todd Lewis on last time too.
I can't tell where
around.
Musonius is coming from because he's such a good host that he seems like he agrees with every guest he has. Of course, he has his own views. He's a hardcore Protestant, but he's so good at interviewing people. He's the best host on TRS.
Yeah, he's definitely good at like not being confrontational with guests, but letting them speak their piece and sort of just being
That's the
charitable.
best type of interview.
He isolates their arguments and the points he agrees with them and holds on the conversation. He has a monarchist on one show, and the next week he has a libertarian. And if you listen to those shows individually, you would think he agrees with both of them.
Well,
He's a very good host.
Well,
fair,
here's the thing. I'd say if you're
monarchy
truly a libertarian, you should really be a monarchist.
Yes, that's what I was going to say, because libertarianism and monarchism is not that far removed.
What does monarchy have to do with kid touching?
That's the question of the evening.
Well, I'm
See,
sure some
just from the
monarchs
standpoint that
touch kids.
libertarianism doesn't really claim anything about the system of government, does it? It just claims something about the relationship between individuals, that they have a high degree of freedom and that the government's relatively small. I don't think there's anything intrinsic in libertarianism that is pro-democracy. For instance, like I look at Hans Hermann Hoppe. Isn't he the one who wrote the book Democracy: The God That Failed?
Yeah.
He's like
yeah.
you know, and if you look historically, the smallest governments have always been autocracies. They've always been absolute monarchies. You know, democracies are the biggest governments you could ever imagine. So,
and Rothbard's another guy who's a libertarian.
Anarcho-capitalist. That's that whole
fan of Pinochet.
Yeah, go on.
I think he said that you're either going to have a police state at the border or inside the border. And it's that's he's 100% spot on with that, because like, why do we need this huge security apparatus in the United States with the TSA and everything and the FBI and all that stuff? The NSA is because of like, we're letting people in this country who are a threat, you know, who don't like our way of life.
The Godcast is an awesome show also. I listen to every episode of the Godcast. That's awesome that you, Mr. Ian, is going on it.
Yeah, I never listened to the Godcast.
It's pretty good. I mean, sometimes it's a little bit haphazard, but they do the best they can. And
well, they're no reactionary and Hangout, if that's what you mean.
Well, yeah, that's because we just converse openly here.
Yeah, there's a difference between what Ian does and what a podcast is. This is a Hangout, so like we kind of talk off the cuff.
Mm-hmm.
While with a podcast, like the discussion's more organized, and it usually lasts about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, yeah, it was a good episode. I had a lot of fun. It was just me, Right Wing Nut, and Bourgeoisie, because the others couldn't make it.
Yeah.
But the three of us together were pretty good, I think.
Wait, you had Bourgeoisie on?
Yeah, he's been on a lot of the Godcasts. He's been on the last 3 episodes, I think.
Oh, so I thought you had Bourgeoisie on your podcast.
On here, you mean? No.
Yeah. I was about to scorn you for not making Khazar Milker jokes.
Why?
Oh, you don't listen to the Fatherland. Well, there's this joke about Jewish girls keep going after Borzoi.
Oh, I haven't listened to Fatherland in a long time, actually, just because it kind of blackpills me. But I remember back when I used to listen to it, they would talk to him occasionally about girls and stuff. But
I feel it's a very comfy podcast. You can listen to it while you're doing other stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it makes me doubt whether I'll ever find the girl of my dreams.
Well,
let's see.
You don't have to find the girl of your dreams. Just a decent-looking girl that
become a Protestant and move to Romania.
Hold on a second. What's Sam?
Oh, sorry.
You don't need to find the girl of your dreams. You just need to find a decent-looking girl that treats you like a human being, that treats you like a man. You know, and you're better off than 90% of men in the Western world who can't find anyone.
Well,
or they find some psycho girl that just breaks up with them, has an abortion, or tries to kill them when they try to break up with her.
Cody Arias.
That's because of it.
No, it's nothing. Here, go on. Who's talking? Was it Delta, I think. Was you talking?
I was going to bring up the point that it's because you have the system how you have it today, or it's kind of between like men and women. It's almost like if you're not like some big alpha burly dude, you don't get jack in it. You're basically the other 99% of men. You're just kind of thrown out.
Oh yeah, yeah.
No one cares about you if you don't have this certain trait. You're no good. If you same with the women, because of all the pop culture. I'd actually say that's an injustice in my view.
Well, there is culture for an ugly man, but an ugly woman is over.
Oh yeah.
I get no one likes an ugly woman, but I get that ugly. No one woman wants an ugly man, and vice versa. But this point where you have to have this absurd, like Barbie-esque kind of thing, otherwise you're just it's like retarded.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, virtue.
I'm not
is
trying to be
number
like,
one
oh, I'm not trying to say like, oh, the feminists, all right, because they're retarded, because they're like, oh, fat acceptance and just accept everything, even if it's gross. You're just like.
No, the thing is that like
can't you get a girlfriend at your churches? Aren't they more?
Oh, the problem with the church is they've been freaking brought, the whole world's kind of infiltrated that and made them thoughts and effort. Or they're snarky.
You can
too many
train.
thoughts, to be honest.
You can train a thought, not a hopeless thought, but
no, actually, listen.
Train them to pull a carriage, maybe, but I
No.
too much else.
I'm sorry,
Send it to the Gregory Carlin Thought Academy.
Let
Listen. I've
No,
got a thought.
you have
I've got
to-
a thought
Hold
tweeting
on.
me
One at a
right
time.
now.
One at a time. Hold on, Mark. You go.
I got a thought tweeting me right now. Laurie Hendry. You never were a deplorable Trumper if you turn your back on POTUS the first time he makes a decision you may not totally agree with. At which point I've said, he's literally helping ISIS in Syria. And then I've had some white knight come in and go, oh, no, he's not. ISIS is fighting Assad. We don't have to pick one over the other. We can take out both.
Why is the white
knight
knight
come like
Jared
Jared?
Taylor?
Yeah, I was
Literally
saying the
kill
same thing.
Mark, you just need to tweet back, hashtag I'm slapping you with my kid skin glove right now.
I've tweeted back, George W. Bush 2.0, so much for anti-globalism, lol. Trump said he was against regime change throughout the campaign, filthy liar, because that's what he is. These people will never learn. I mean, they're patriotards. They literally just, it's blind allegiance. They rally around the flag, whatever the hell it's.
I think Laurie Hendry is just a typical conservative. I used to follow her on Twitter, so.
Didn't the Apostle Paul tell us to take every thought captive?
There's too many thoughts around. It's pretty sad, to be honest. I think a lot of them are just craving attention.
Or is that the Quran?
You cannot train a thought. The same reason you can't make a whore a housewife.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
I didn't mean thought as in whore. I basically meant a modern girl.
Let me give you a story, okay? I was working for one of those companies that drive people around to make money, and I picked up a Swedish girl from a college and took her to a community college on the other side of town, and she was talking about like how Armenian men are still controlling based on like what she heard from her Armenian girlfriend, and she was talking about how the men try to be on top of their girls, like they try to make sure that they're not cheating on them, by like, looking through their phone and saying, hey, who's this person, and so on. And she thought that was very controlling, and she thought like you should be able to like do whatever you want. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you should just control people. Like, Armenian men need to be more modern. And it's
literally piss off.
Yeah, it's like and she asked me if I was like that. I said, yeah, a little bit. I forgot whether she asked me if I was like that or Armenian men in general are like that. And I said, yeah, I agreed. And she asked why is that? I said, I don't know, it just is, But it's sort of like you have to think that like if her Armenian girlfriend is talking about her Armenian boyfriend behind his back about how he's controlling, if you're trying to control a thought, if she's the type of woman that needs to be controlled, and you're doing it wrong. You need to be in a relationship with a good Christian girl, not some slut just because she looks like a porn star.
Yeah.
That was my point.
Porn stars are kind of gross looking, actually, so I don't know if I want one.
Well, that was my point concisely.
Can I
just go after.
I'm saying rhetorically.
Hold on. One too many people talking here. Brittany, are you saying something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, shout out to Nuclear Pepe. No Hyman, no diamond.
That's it.
Yeah, that's
Well, on that
true.
note, I've got to go, guys. So I'll see you later.
Yeah, thanks for coming, Mark. It's good to have you back.
Good night, Mark. God bless.
Mark, I think you bring in a lot more views because it seems like when you're not with us, we get fewer views. You're like the star attraction.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
A bit of an e-slap now, I guess.
Just don't bring any thoughts, please.
Oh, I should remind people, if you haven't checked out my latest YouTube video, go to my YouTube channel, check it out.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. All right, see ya.
I'll link to that. Have a good night, Mark.
Night.
Yeah.
Night, Mark.
Good night. Yeah.
I think Mark just did a merchant minute.
No, I think, yeah. Yeah.
You want to ask me something?
What I meant to talk about was like the stereotypical, you know, superficial girl that puts on a lot of makeup and, you know, and shows a little extra skin, you know. That's generally what I meant, not necessarily porn stars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't really find girls who do that attractive, honestly. It just seems cheap. Like.
Oh yeah, I don't either, you know, but like probably a lot of guys do because they watch a lot of porn and they don't know how to relate to a woman sexually unless she dresses up like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the funny, Sam. You were talking about Armenian dating. I actually had a dream last weekend that I was dating an Armenian girl.
Oh, nice. How was it like?
Interesting.
I remember that. I only remember a few details. I remember what it was that I had an Armenian friend who was a guy, and we would always hang out. And then his sister was always hanging out with us too. And then somehow I ended up dating the sister. And the only thing I remember actually doing with her was driving in a car, and I was just kind of joking around, and I started singing, "She was an Armenian girl." I know, that sounds like something I would do probably, but
I wish we had a video of this dream.
Yeah, I wish that too. And then she said to me, "That's a real song." I said, "Really?" And that's the last thing I remember from the dream. But making Tom Petty parodies
it was probably a song in Armenian.
It's funny because I did look it up. There is actually a pop song called Armenian Girl, but it's not very good, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
But some
pop songs generally are not very good.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like worse than the
pop
average.
songs suck.
Well, I mean, a pop song, there are good pop songs if they're well written and stuff, but some of them are just like...
the final countdown.
Everything that isn't classical.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah. Hi, William.
Hey, finally.
Well, I was just getting a feel for the conversation. It sounded really. You guys were talking about some great stuff.
Getting a feel for the
tried to get on, and then
3 hours in. Hey guys, what's up?
Yeah. No, it's only 2 hours in. We still have probably another hour to go before we'll shut it down. Unless
William was having technical issues.
I had to work late, and then I had technical issues, and then you guys were talking about stuff. I didn't feel that I was worthy to participate.
That's fine if you just I guess.
Kidding.
No. Well, yeah. I mean, I I don't like to just jump into a conversation. I like to hear where the tone of it is and stuff.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Right.
You guys have already talked about the unpleasantness, I guess.
Yeah,
Trump and Syria. Yeah.
Yeah, we went over all that earlier. You can go back and listen to it later. I
was
guess.
already mildly.
Mark has some good points in that.
I was mildly blackpilled already, so.
Yeah.
I was ready for disappointment, but not quite that disappointment.
I was ready for some kind of disappointment somewhere, but not like this soon into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too soon, basically.
Yeah.
Well,
and not on this retarded. Hold on.
Yeah. I hope this area was just a window dressing.
Freaking people Facebook stuff. I'm like, I'll deal with it later. I know I have a Faceberg.
You cuck. No, seriously.
Well, one of my friends has a.
I mean, it's I'd honestly say, okay, I'd say this very cautiously, but I'd almost say that having a Facebook may be some. Oh, wow. Wow.
What is that noise?
Delta, I'm muting you. I think it's coming from you.
Yeah, it's my phone.
Let me
One
mute you
of
real
these
quick.
old faggots keeps calling me.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Just mute you
I'd
real quick.
almost say having a Facebook full of, you know, those people is honestly probably a good thing because it helps you keep your pulse on what regular people are thinking. And by regular people, I mean, you know, the majority of anyone who's ever graduated college. So, I mean, it keeps you kind of in the know of what.
It's on vibrate now, so and I have it in my hand, so every time it goes, bzz, just shut it off.
Okay.
It's a friend that he won't like stop calling. It's just shut
All
up.
right.
I'm busy. This is more interesting than that anyway. It's just like a.
But yeah, it helps
crap.
you see what the extreme I mean, the examples you see on the news and on the media, those are likely to be extreme examples because they're examples that stir emotion for our side. You know, baseline propaganda. But when you actually have a bunch of friends that believe that sort of shit, I mean, you actually start looking at it. It's honestly not that far of a gap. But yeah, it's good. It's good to have little reminders and keep your finger on the pulse of that sort of stuff.
I'm gonna actually ask this question though. Since I got a couple of it's like remember I got a Trump hat back during the campaign. I guess I got some other thing. I'm like, what am I gonna do with all this like Trump stuff I have now? Just throw it in the trash.
I don't have any merch.
Yeah, I'll just throw it in the closet and like I'm not speaking of this again.
Yeah. I was smart enough not to buy any merchandise.
Downloading some crap now. I'm trying to.
Yeah, I'm not buying anything again. Definitely not for any election.
Oh, you know what destroyed me? Walking around town today, I saw probably more people. I saw more people wearing Trump hats today than I ever did during the campaign, during the inauguration, during the mainstream presidency. You know, I saw like probably 4 or 5 Trump hats just walking around today. Coincidentally, after the bombing.
Well, just walk around with the flag of the Syrian government flag and watch how people will look at you like you're some terrorist or something.
I should do it. Oh my God.
I have that flag. Yes.
You convinced me, fam. But no, I need. I honestly need to.
Or just do this, or just do the salute that everyone calls the Hitler salute.
Yeah, honestly, I need to try to stay off. I need to try to stay off of a no-fly list.
Yeah, I'm joking.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly really want to, but I've got plans overseas, so that's pretty important.
I don't plan on flying anywhere anytime soon.
Honestly, it doesn't matter where you go. The world is. It's gonna be the same as it is everywhere. It's gonna be worldly.
We should have fired John McCain.
Fired up the ovens. Yeah.
You mean like put him on the front of a Tomahawk missile and fire him into
Syria?
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have worked. You should do that to Hillary too.
He'll gladly volunteer.
Yeah, he'll be like the How I Learned to Dr. Strangelove. You know the guy's riding the bomb at the end.
Yeah, that'd be a good painting.
No, strap John McCain and Hillary Clinton to a Tomahawk missile and shoot that at ISIS.
And shoot them from both from different directions, so they can be coming at each other, and I mean that would make it a little bit more entertaining. And plus symmetry.
Well, we just got to make sure now that the Russians don't shoot it down. Well, they might not if it's McCain on there. They might be like, oh, let's let it blow up.
All right. No, you should put it at Okay, what you should do. Have the same perspective as the Doctor Strangelove, like the the facing them, they're facing the camera perspective, facing the ass end of the rocket. Both of them, Hillary and McCain, side by side, both doing the rodeo pose. The background is a Syrian church.
Because that's pretty much what's happening.
Huh?
That's pretty much what's happening.
I'm sorry, Lumen. What was that?
I said because that's pretty much what's happening. I mean, it's we're bombing someone who actually protects Christians.
Yeah. Well, how'd that go in Iraq last time? I mean, didn't Saddam protect Christians? I'm pretty sure he did.
Yeah, we solved their multicultural problem. I mean, they're homogeneous now.
Mm-hmm.
Job well done.
Yeah.
I've been so black-pilled I haven't even paid really any attention to what's happened.
This implying the Ba'ath Party is a bad thing.
Was it a single strike?
Yeah, it was, William.
Oh, the Russians are furious though, and they're now doing their own response.
Yeah, they moved a warship.
Oh, they're sending a warship. One warship? You think that's gonna be enough? You might want to send the fleet.
But it was also reported that the Trump administration informed the Russians beforehand because I guess they had some people at that base.
Well, now Russia's like, I guess we're gonna go blow up a bunch of. We're gonna just start blowing American stuff up now.
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly,
Kushner, the Jew. He's part of the problem. He needs to go.
Honestly,
Ivanka needs to shut up, and he needs to go.
I honestly couldn't think of a more fitting way for this world to end. So, it's cool.
World War III. Oh, great. This is the price of picking a wild card. We thought we would get something. We thought we would not get Hillary, and I think it seems like we just got a transvestite in disguise. This is the way it's gonna go.
Well, we've already talked about this, haven't we? Though.
Yeah.
I mean, no need to sit and grumble again. But the same thing we grumbled about an hour ago.
I know Arjun did a stream about this already.
Yeah, I haven't even watched that yet.
Yeah. I'm gonna do that after this is over. I know that.
I don't have time to watch a lot of his videos anyway. I'm just so busy now that I'm doing so many things that I can't watch everything that everybody produces.
Who are?
There's too much content.
We're talking about Argent.
Let alone all the reading. Like I'm way behind on all this reading that I normally do.
I thought you were talking about
writing. I'm also behind in my writing.
David, something like Davis Aron or something like that.
Davis Arini? What about him?
I thought you were talking about him.
No, Argent. Not.
Yeah, Argent's cool. That's how I met Delta. We were on one of Argent's streams together last weekend.
Yeah, I just popped in and
I saw that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, a little bit, I think. I don't remember if I sat through the whole thing, but I don't remember you talking that much during the whole thing.
I didn't really say that much in it because there's so many people talking that I didn't really get many words in. But it was cool. It was fun just to hang out.
Yeah.
We had a good conversation after we went off the air, so we just hung around for a while and talked.
Were you talking about your plans for the Rahowa?
No.
We can make fun of pagans for the next hour or so.
And you got to be honest with them. I mean, we can't talk about it on air, but you can at least say, yes, we do talk about it off the air.
We're pretty much in the advanced stages. I mean, it's a fait accompli.
It's true.
Yeah. You know, the biggest problem with white nationalism is white people. You know, if it wasn't for white people, white nationalism would be okay.
That would be a great drop. The only problem with white nationalism is white people.
Yeah, we should just have white nationalism with Asians.
It's like Paris is great except for the Parisians.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look at all the garbage in the streets now.
Yeah, I wonder how we can have white nationalism if
Plus,
people
there's lots of trash in the streets as well. Heyo!
Heyo! Yeah, the
You feel like-
Parisians actually weren't that bad. I want to go to Paris and be treated rudely. You know, I don't want to.
Here's a joke. What do white people and Jews have in common?
The French.
They both like homosexuals.
Yes, I was about to get they're both degenerate. It wasn't like that before.
They're both Shabbos heteros.
That joke had the exact
Shabbos
opposite
hetero.
effect that a joke should have on someone for me.
Yeah.
Man, why is my browser being so annoying right now?
Look at that base black man in the Trump hat.
Yeah.
Base that whole.
It's a dank. It's dank.
He's the keynote speaker.
The base
Oh,
gay man in the
yeah,
Trump. Like, it's just so freaking stupid. Yeah.
Are the Donald? That's what,
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that
yeah. Next, if we ever have a next election, if this doesn't turn the nuclear holocaust, I'm not voting in it. I'm like, I'm out.
I'll just let the Democrats elect a black Muslim president.
Oh, great. We're probably if Assad hasn't fallen yet, we're definitely having World War III then.
Yeah.
Or unless somehow the Bernie crowd makes it come back and destroys us from within.
Honestly, though, I don't think I could take a world without Assad. Maybe into the void would be better.
Well, the only thing after Assad's Iran and Russia, and that's basically it.
Well, you know what's really, this is just from a historical perspective, in a very short time. So let me calculate it in my head. So in 35 years. So going back to 1982, we went from Assad's father, Hafez al-Assad, the way that he dealt with these people that his son has been struggling with for 3 years. And I'm sure some of you guys have heard this story, and it was the Muslim Brotherhood. It was the Ikhwan. And they were all in a town called Hama, and he gave the civilians a couple of hours to get out of there. He surrounded the town with tanks and artillery, and he leveled the place. And that was it. That was the last you heard of Islamic terror, until the U.S. came back into the Middle East. So I mean, just within 35 years, we went from a time when a strong leader in this nation could do that and no one blinks, and to where we are now. It's kind of remarkable.
It is.
Yeah, it's
progress.
It's ridiculous that every time there's an atrocity, we have to intervene. It's like that whole bullshit in the Balkans too. In the 90s, that Milosevic was like pretty much how you say, like, he was laying the smackdown on some Muslims, and all of a sudden we have to go to war for the Muslims.
Yeah, we could at least intervene for the right side. I mean, if we're going to do it,
exactly.
at least do it. I mean, for people who share our interests, for people who, to put it coarsely, people who look like us, people who are a little bit closer to us in their outlook, and it's just a sad commentary on how low how low our societies have fallen collectively when it comes to our philosophy and our collective spiritual and mental health.
Yeah, and this problem has been like mainly an Anglo problem. It's not like something that's new, because the British Empire did it before America did. Like, the British Empire sided with the Ottoman Empire against Russia, and it ignored the Armenians in suffering in the Ottoman Empire.
And the thing is, like, we still, we abide the fact that Turkey will not acknowledge this genocide. We don't even say anything about it. Just that in itself says so much.
Yeah, because the victims are Christians. It has nothing to do with whether or not they're white. It has to do with the fact that they're Christians, and it goes back to the fact that the you know who's, their main purpose in life is to eradicate Christianity. It goes back to why they introduced all these crazy Marxist ideas into the foundations of our society. They're trying to eradicate Christ from Europe, and it's working. It's honestly working. Europe is not Christian anymore, and it is suffering because of it. It is being invaded by non-Christians because it is not Christian anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
The most tragic thing I think about all this is that, you know, I'm thinking we're probably pretty much past it by now, but, you know, we willingly, you know, declined to work these issues out in a at least somewhat peaceful manner. And, you know, it's now at the point where, you know, it's clearly going to have to get very ugly. You know, it will get worked out, but it's just a shame that it had to, that we had to allow the circumstances to arise and to develop and to fester in such a way that it's going to make this all but inevitable, you know, that it's going to be very ugly. And that's a shame. That's because we're better than that. And we're not only better than that in a moral sense, but intellectually as well. But we've debased ourselves for far too long.
Well, it's,
exactly.
Yeah, well, it's the same way how if you think about the current situation in the Middle East, no one cares about like the Assyrians because they're Christians, or the Coptics, because it doesn't matter if they're non-whites. It's because Christianity, these people talk about how if you're a straight white male, you get basically dumped on. If you're a Christian, no one cares about you. It doesn't matter what race you are. Christianity is even greater sin than being a straight white male to these people.
Yeah, actually, statistically, if I remember correct, well, I mean, I know this, is that Christianity is the single most persecuted religion in the world. Fuck the Jews. Fuck the Muslims. The Christians, I mean, they're dying in much greater numbers today. To this day, they're dying in greater numbers than the Jews or the Muslims or any other given, you know, heathen religion.
Oy vey, you don't recognize the Holocaust?
I recognize that there will be a Holocaust, but I digress.
All right.
Yes, no one wants to talk about the Christians because Christianity is a greater privilege than being white, straight, or whatever. That's what all these skeptics said. They said being a straight white male is the ultimate privilege. No, try being a Christian. How about that? No one likes you at that point. Doesn't matter if you're black. They still don't like you. They hate Ben Carson because he's a Christian.
You have Christian privilege. It's really absurd. It's like, even though if you're a Christian, you basically have to, you know, risk getting a bunch of fedoras yelling at you or calling you stupid or.
No, it is a privilege because you get the privilege of having God's unending love and grace.
Well, right. There's that. But I mean,
you have the privilege of you have the greatest privilege of all, and that privilege is the privilege of having the truth on your side. They don't have the truth on their side. That's why they constantly struggle. That's why they constantly live in guilt. They have to browbeat everybody into agreeing with them.
Right. I feel sorry for me. I'm such a victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be that we have privileges we're not quite aware of.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about this time recently?
Think of after we die, basically, as a Christian, like compared to one of these other people. Our destiny is different from theirs after death. They have to deal with judgment, and they can't handle. Well, we all get judged, but their judgment's going to be worse because they chose not to accept Jesus Christ, and they chose their own degeneracy and materialism because they want their best life to be now.
Yeah, your best life now. That's very Osteen.
Yeah, very heretic. And there's things I don't like more than liberals, and I'll say it's heretics.
Yeah.
Aren't they the same thing?
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm talking about heretics within Christianity that those that's worse because they're among liberals.
Heretics are people within Christianity. The heathens are people that don't know Christ.
Well, progressive Christians at least are heretics.
Yeah, they're the ultimate heretic.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are other kinds of heretics.
It's the smoke of Satan that is getting into the cracks of the cathedral, of the church.
Or
The
we have the
most
LGBT Christians. I've heard of that. The gay Christians. I guess now Islam has that problem where a lot of Western Muslims are saying they're gay and pansexual. Yeah, go to
dear
Iran
God.
and they'll hang you from a crane.
How big? How? I
Oh,
wonder how.
they don't really mind transsexuality in Iran.
I was talking about like faggots.
Say
Oh
again?
yeah. Oh, faggots become trannies so they don't get hung.
Yeah.
What were you saying, William?
Oh, I'm just wondering.
actually-
Go on, William.
Just wondering how large our. I'm wondering if. Anyway, we were talking about. You guys were talking about the revival of Christianity earlier, when I was listening, and trying to get on. And I'm just wondering. I wonder how big, this kind of trad reactionary revival is, and if it's actually growing. And maybe, I don't know, maybe we aren't doing enough work in the church. We're kind of hanging out in this kind of parapolitical space. And I'm not saying we should leave the political space, but I sometimes wonder if we haven't kind of given up on our churches maybe too much, and maybe our effort really should be. After this Trump thing, I've just started kind of wondering, like, okay, where am I gonna put my energy? Like,
Well, let me give you a little anecdote, William. When I started going to the Latin Mass, let's see, it was 3 years ago, and it was the first few times I went, it was maybe at the very most you would see 15 people there, and it got a little bit bigger. It got up to maybe 25, 30, and the diocese decided not to send a priest to celebrate the Latin Mass there anymore. And they do. There is actually, we've noticed, there is actually, it's not acknowledged, it's not explicit, but there is an effort to kind of make it difficult for people to go to the Latin Mass, because the church knows that it will result in people like what you're talking about. But anyway, so we moved to it. We actually all had to start going to another state to do it, where they would give us a priest. And I watched it grow from it was probably about 40 people when I first started going, but it's just mushroomed. And when you talk about, is it growing? Will it take root? I see the kids there, and what stands out the most to me is I have a friend, his son's an altar server, and so I see him and his friends, and these guys are pretty hardcore. They're like, they seem like any other teenagers you would see, but they're like quizzing each other about Latin, and they're like, they're joking around about, like the whoever the pastor was that celebrated Mass, made this mistake, and they're like totally into this, and it's a very traditional environment. And so I don't know. You're right. I agree with what you're saying, but there does seem to be an organic, just normal growth if it's out there, if it's an option.
with that, does that come other social?
Yes.
Traditionalism and
yes.
so forth?
Where there was actually the same guy I was just mentioning, my friend. There was one night, he this is a white thing, like Melania Woes discovered it when he was here, having a bonfire in the backyard. There was one night he had the bonfire, and we had a little barbecue, and it was great. It was all people from our parish, and there was some good beer, like some craft beer and some wine, but no one was really drinking too much. We had a priest that was there. We actually did a rosary, so it does happen. And I think going forward, I've mentioned this to Ian before, what we'll be looking to do, especially, when we see things just going, full Kali Yuga, we're going to be looking geographically to probably cluster a little bit, you know, in areas where, you know, there will be a few different factors. You know, there will be, you know, how well can we support each other, like we used to do in Europe. But there will be other factors like, you know, what are the gun laws? You know, what's the geography? You know, so I think going forward, we're going to need to band together and what Ian was talking about earlier, and Gregory, you know, networking right now, you know, to make sure that we can stay in touch with each other in person. Right,
absolutely. And you know, I'm just gonna say this right now, like, you know, even as a Lutheran, and I'm supposed to be like, you know, a heretic for a Catholic, but the thing is that, you know, when I hear about that Catholicism, when I hear about the Catholicism, you know, kind of how it's supposed to be.
Oh yeah, our pastors actually do. They will name the Jew, and they will, you know, they'll call out Islam as.
It's not even about that. It's just
but I'm just saying it's just so far from what people normally see as Catholicism these days.
Right.
I'm giving an extreme example.
Right, and you know the thing is that, you know, like I don't really know a whole lot. Like I don't know every bit of the minutia behind, you know, Pope Benedict, but I mean, in all honesty, like I could see myself liking the guy and his policies. Like you know, I could see that being a good pope. And you know, Pope Francis is pretty much, you know, I'm convinced he might be the Antichrist. It's not my job to worry about it or try to decipher that, but I got a hunch.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we had a real pope, and I don't mean that in a I'm not being heretical about it, but what I mean is a pope who firmly, consistently, and unapologetically stood for clear principles in the church. Yeah, exactly.
Right. And, that's the thing that drove. The thing is, Martin Luther he didn't want a revolution that would, you know, completely upturn the church and completely destroy it. He didn't want to be a Protestant. He wanted to be a restorationist. He wanted to restore the church to what it was supposed to be. Well, I mean, obviously Pope Leo had some other plans, but you know, I mean, honestly, there shouldn't be any kind of, and you know, even my dad growing up, I mean, he had this kind of sense of awe about the Catholic Church because, you know, he was like, you guys are, you know, can trace y'all's, I think it's called the apostolic lineage, all the way back to, you know, Peter.
Apostolic succession.
Apostolic succession, yeah, all the way back to Peter. You know.
Yep.
And that's something that, you know, as you know, as Christian, just alone as Christians, really fascinated us. And I mean, he got a lot of flack for being a Lutheran and trying to go to a Catholic school. I mean, it's to be expected, but you know, see, again, hearing Christianity, not Catholicism, Christianity like that is just something that kind of warms your heart, you know.
Well, I don't necessarily agree with Catholicism or a lot of other denominations, but I'm not going to go out and some of them go, "Oh, Catholics are pagans," and ugh. Well, it doesn't. I don't necessarily agree with the theology of like the Catholicism or some other groups, but I'm not going to go out and say they're just pagans because this reason, the Jesuits or something dumb. Like I see a lot of like
they worship Mary,
yeah, they do put her to a decent status, but that doesn't.
Are you guys familiar with Theodore's Shabbat?
With what?
I don't think so.
I heard Shabbat.
Yeah, me too.
I've heard that the Shiites in Islam get accused of worshiping saints or whatever. They get ridiculed for similar thing Catholics do.
What is this now you're talking about, Sam?
Oh, there's this guy named Theodore Shabbat. He's the son of Wali Shabbat.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sounds Jewish.
I thought it was Shubat.
No, they're actually Palestinian.
I thought they were. I thought they were like Oh,
whoops.
I thought they were Lebanese, but yeah, it's the same thing.
Yeah, well, Theodore Schubat was talking about like how he used to be an evangelical, but he converted to Catholicism because he read stories about how the Catholics were militant for the Christian faith throughout European history, how they fought the Muslims, and he went to a modern Novus Ordo mass, and it was like very watered down. You know, it was pretty much like a modernist evangelifish. What's the word?
Well, C.S. Lewis called it Christianity in water. You know, so I mean, it's
Churchianity.
I mean, it is. I mean, it's that's what drove me to go to the Latin Mass. You know, because I was an atheist. You know, I grew up Catholic, but I was an atheist for a while, and my girl got me back into the church, and you know, I was happy, you know, to go back, but I just started noticing, like, you know, people are going in on Sunday, they're like wearing their favorite football team jersey, and they were just always like joking around. Like, I would go in there, I'd want to pray and get ready, and I just noticed it wasn't how I imagined Christ wanted our church to be, and I knew what some of these people were doing. And as soon as I went to Latin Mass, it was just like night and day. And the people you talk to, they're like us, essentially. They really are. And they're just normal white people. I mean, there are a few people who aren't white, but it's mostly white people. And these are people who could easily be quite content, you know, living in the 1500s as whatever, as, you know, artisans or merchants, whatever. So, I mean, it is a big difference. I mean, the mainstream Catholicism it's pretty much completely paused. I mean, and it's sad to say that, but the thing is, the church has always come back from this. You know, it's happened before, and that's part of what drove Luther to do what he did. But the church is run by men, but it's owned by Christ. It's Christ's bride.
Right. Lumen, what do you think of Eastern Rite Catholics?
I can't say that I'm well informed about any major differences, you know, between us. They're still in communion with Rome, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
what I know about them is that they're in communion with Rome, but their liturgy is the same as the Orthodox. Are there any major, like, theological differences?
Not that I know, like, but again, I'm not well informed. I'm sorry to say.
Right.
But I would guess, you know, as far as just, you know, I don't mean to say like choosing sides, but just kind of, because let's face it, you know, if you're talking about Christianity these days, you're talking about just what everyone knew Christianity in their hearts was for centuries, and, you know, something that's basically the modern world with all its degeneracy, except it's, you know, it has some of the trappings of Christianity. So that's what you're choosing. So I would say people like, you know, groups like the Orthodox, the Marianites, the even the Copts. You know, these are people that we have should make common cause with, because they're not paused, and they're probably not going to be. You know, I mean, it's the people that I go to Mass with, and the pastors that celebrate the Mass there. They're not going to give in. They're Christians, like Christians have always been. They'll take a bullet before they let that happen.
Right, but aren't they, like, not in the case of the Eastern Catholics, but in the case of the Eastern Orthodox, the Copts, and so on? Aren't they considered heretical or schismatic by the Catholics?
I think they're considered schismatic. I bet William knows.
Okay.
I bet William knows more about this than me.
About what?
Yeah.
Just the whatever, you know, whatever doctrinal differences there might be between Roman Catholics and then, you know, the Eastern Rite and Orthodox.
There's a guy, Josiah Trenham. He was an evangelical guy who converted to Orthodox. He's now an Orthodox priest. He's out of Riverside, California, and he's got like 10 kids, and I think he's a saint in the making. Like you gotta look up Josiah Trenum and just listen to some of his videos. He's quite amazing, and he does one on the differences between Catholicism and the East. I mean, one of the in the creed, the big one is that the Spirit proceeds from the Father only in the Orthodox, which is the original form of the creed, and then for some reason it was changed to proceeding from the Father and the Son in the Catholic creed, and we use that same one most of the time in the Anglican Church, though we do have some similarities with the Orthodox often in other ways, but that's one of the main differences. There are also other differences, but maybe I'll try to find it and link it. But he's a fabulous traditionalist without being in any way kind of knowingly either reactionary, and he certainly isn't all right. We probably find him his some of his positions a bit I wouldn't want to say anyway, certainly not liberal, but yeah, he's quite an amazing speaker. He spoke in the Ukraine on kind of the defense of the family, and he discussed the pause essentially of basically as he's grown up in LA his whole life, and just watching basically the homosexual lobby take over Los Angeles, and how basically they're this is something that the Eastern countries are trying to keep from happening, and he spoke very potently against just do not give them an inch, because they literally will just continually fight and fight and fight to take more and more and more. They never stop. They will never stop. The only way to deal with them is to tell them no.
Yeah, you give them an inch, they take a mile.
Yeah, well, it's you tell them no, and if they refuse and they keep trying, you just crush them outright if necessary.
Yeah, that's how it used to be done.
That's the same as dealing with communists. There's only one thing for communists, and it's helicopter rides.
And there were many priests. There were many Catholic priests who were not averse to picking up a carbine and putting a bullet in a communist. And it wasn't bloodlust. It wasn't. It was manliness, but it wasn't bravado. I mean, this is what I mean. This is what I mean about making common cause with people like this, because, I mean, let's face it. There's no hope right now. I mean, things will turn around at some point, maybe in our lives, probably not. But what we need in the meantime is spiritual haven, and you're not going to find it in most churches. You're just not. I see it where I go. I'm guessing in the majority of Orthodox parishes, churches, you'll find it, but it's increasingly difficult to find anywhere. And that's what we need, because Christ promised us he'd be with us to the end of days, and that's what we have to cling to. And you're not going to get. I wasn't getting that in my Novus Ordo masses. I remember when we got to the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. Our pastor. This was a Novus Ordo mass before I started going to the Latin mass. He like went out of his way to minimize the homosexual sodomy components of this story, and like really just tried to make it all about the lack of hospitality.
Yeah,
I've heard that before.
It's so pathetic. It's like, really, they got fire and brimstone for being bad hosts.
Yeah,
really.
and that's my point. You're not. What are you doing there? Are you trying to bring people to Christ? Are you trying to bring people to God? Are you trying to scare people, which you should be doing if you're a good priest, or are you trying to signal? I mean, that's kind of, I think, what you're going to find at most churches.
Oh,
Yeah,
just cowardice. It's just total cowardice on their part to
Yeah.
face it,
We'll go along
or they themselves are compromised in some
Well,
way.
and you compare that. You compare that with a priest who. Go
What's
ahead.
funny is that growing up, I mean, how I didn't even. This is just another typical church thing. It's like, you know, I didn't even know what Sodom. I didn't even know why Sodom was burned down. Like I didn't even correlate Sodom with sodomy at all until I was, I think, in my 20s. I didn't even think about there being a correlation, you know, until then. Like, nobody had ever taught me, like, hey, Sodom, they were sodomites. They sodomized people. And I still had no idea what, even when they said sodomized, I had no idea what that meant, you know.
Well,
You're
sodomy
serious?
used to be roundly condemned by the church, as it should be, you know, and you know, there's a difference between I don't know, you know, just someone who has a knee-jerk reaction against someone who might be gay, which is normal, but there's a difference between that and a Christian or a good Christian saying, it's not that I, you know, think you're a bad person because you're gay. I mean, it's because you're human, you know, and yes, this is a sin that you're taking part in here, but you know, that is increasingly absent, and I don't know about, you know, too many Protestant churches. I just don't know, but I
mean, you have to take into account the fact that there are two aspects of this. Is that, and it's really hard to discern which is which. You have to take into account that, you know, for the person that is struggling with something, for somebody who doesn't, like, you know, it's like, you know, forgive them. They don't know what they do. You know, for somebody who's struggling or hurting in that kind of way, that's when you show them Christian mercy. But for a reprobate mind, that's a different thing. That's a different animal entirely. That's something that knows that it's doing wrong, that it wants to do wrong, and it wants to do more wrong, or it wants to outdo anyone that's done wrong before it.
And the thing is, if we do take refuge in these principles, and if we go to places where these principles have not been compromised, when something like this happens, like you know, Trump bombing Syria or whatever, you know, it's you know, it's dispiriting, you know, it's discouraging, it's, you know, it might get you down, but again, you know, who's in control? Who's really in control of things? You know, and it doesn't mean that you know, it's escapism and you forget about the world and trying to do good in the world. And but you know, I feel bad for people who don't have this. You know, I feel bad for people who have what C.S. Lewis called Christianity in water, because they're not going to have that comfort in times like this.
And one of the problems, like, with this issue, I mean, talking about, I just dropped that link. Maybe Ian will.
Thanks, William. I got that.
That's the second link. The second link is on him defending or going against the LGBT movement. I mean, the problem is, I mean, you know, hating fags is not a Christian virtue.
Yeah.
This is not. You know, this doesn't make you good or right or holy, or this isn't what we're doing. You know, this is not the position. I mean, it is sort of a natural aversion, especially for young people, and it's probably a healthy, normal one.
Yeah.
But it is not a goodness. I mean, the reason we hold these positions is because what we're being asked to do and what starts to happen and what's corrupting to the church. And I wrote a long letter once to an Anglican priest who was doing the work on the same-sex marriage stuff. And I said, I mean, what this is doing is destroying our traditional discipline. It's corrupting our discipline, in that what it's saying is that human desire is the arbiter of truth. And if human desire is the arbiter of truth and of moral truth, then we're done. And secondly, there can be no discipline. And what else is it to be a Christian but to be a disciple, to be disciplined, to actually be told often, you're not doing what you should be doing. This is not the right way to be going. I mean, all of our lives should be very much challenged and difficult if we're actually walking the walk in the way that we should. so it's not just a matter of these people were extra picking on this group of people because they have this particular vice. It's that if we allow that rather insidious vice and desire to be given a pass, that pass goes everywhere. It probably started with divorce and remarriage.
And the rampant of the tolerance of, let's say, fornication and promiscuity.
Yeah, exactly. As soon as you are compromised, and I have been compromised in these ways in myself. I mean, right now I'm living a chaste life. I've been chaste for, anyways, quite a while, and I will kind of happy not to have a woman in my life, and I'm completely chaste in my living right now. So, for once, I can kind of point a finger, wanting to point the finger. But I mean, it's like, why was I living such a compromised existence? I mean, I can blame myself, and certainly it is my own fault. I'm a sinner, right? But it's also because I had no church that was defending my existence. I mean, that was promoting holy living, because the church was promoting forgiveness, it was promoting softness, it was promoting tolerance, it was promoting acceptance, it was promoting all this kind of doorway stuff, like, come in here, yeah, okay, yeah, it's fine, whatever you've been up to, that's fine. But once you're in here, you're going to be beaten with a stick to make you righteous and holy. Like that is that is really the tradition of the church. If you look back at the early writings, like if you want to know what reform is, read the early church fathers, read John Chrysostom, read these people, because for them Christianity isn't some, it's not radical hospitality is the fundamental thing, because what the world was lacking was people inviting people in for dinner. I mean, give me a break. It is a moral discipline. And so this is the problem. So this is only one of the issues, but like I say, and as other people have been pointing out, it's as soon as discipline is not the thing, it's over. Like, all we are is kind of a club of losers congratulating each other for being losers. I mean, this is not what Christ came to and died for.
Yeah, as soon as you can see your church has any sort of significant resemblance to the world, you should be alarmed, and it's regarding the charge that well, I'm going to say Catholics, but I'm guessing other Christian churches are hate gay people. It's a very sleazy, cynical, philosophical sleight of hand. That
an appeal to feels.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, other
feels.
Oh, that just sounds so mean.
Yeah, but it's untrue. I mean, it's setting up. It's a few logical fallacies. It's a straw man. It's begging the question. It's saying essentially, okay, you either say that it's okay to live a degenerate life of sodomy, or you hate. Yeah, I mean, so it's kind of a false. But again, this is the world getting into your church, and it's like, there's a church, not in my town, but it's pretty close, and and I live in New England, and this church is old. It's from the 1600s. It's very old, and they have a rainbow flag on the front of the church these days, and it says something like, God is still listening, or God wants you here, something like that. And it's like, you're giving away everything that really matters. And when that starts in the churches, then it gets worse out here.
Swine. It's called throwing pearls to swine. I actually saw other rainbow churches and oh god, we were in a bad part of Dallas, and it something along the lines of everyone's welcome, and it had like little stick figures of rainbow colors, all holding hands. It was a Methodist church. Big shocker. So
yeah, when we're talking about when did this start, and I'm not looking to rustle any jimmies here, but for me, all this started with the Reformation, but more recently, even past the French Revolution,
the Copernican revolution. That was
exactly, yeah. But,
we literally, anyway, I'm kind of cutting you off. But I've been listening to the flat Earth stuff lately, and it's. I mean, I don't say I believe it, but it's like, this was the beginning of the end when we were no longer specially created.
Well, here in the U.S.,
hold on to special creation in an infinitely expanding universe.
Yeah,
in a meaningless corner of it, it's very difficult.
We've gone back to that, where it's like we're special. But just here in the U.S. and in the West, Fulton Sheen, said, when I think it was the Anglican Church and a group of Southern churches, I don't know who, Episcopalians and Baptists, I'm assuming, all agreed that birth control could be a healthy part of a Christian family life, and he said that within and Ian and I have talked about that. Was that in the 40s, Ian? I can't remember. It was.
Well, it's what in the 40s?
This little anecdote I'm talking about well, anyway, it was around there, and he said, well, within 50 years, it's only going to be, the hardcore. He didn't say hardcore. I think he said badass, actually. No. Anyway, he said the hardcore Catholics and the pagans, and that's when he thought it started. Like in modern times. Just with that, and then that kind of opened the door.
Yeah. Didn't G.K. Chesterton say a similar quote? He said that the Catholics will still be Puritans while the Puritans have become pagans.
That sounds like him. I'm not familiar with that, but
yeah. Well, I'm surprised to hear that, because I grew up always thinking that evangelicals have been okay with birth control. Has it traditionally been banned within Protestantism?
Well, it was before, but this is around the 30s or 40s whenever this happened.
Right.
I mean, it's never been okay for Catholics.
Yeah, I know.
Not official.
Yeah, I know. But Protestants have always, from what I remember being taught growing up within the Protestant church, there has never been any opposition to birth control. Like, I always heard that that's a Catholic teaching, that's specifically Catholic. That's like a Catholic distinctive.
Well, it is. I mean, and in your lifetime, it always has been that way. But it was. My point in telling that anecdote is, that's when Reverend Fulton Sheen thought, was the turning point in our society, and in American society in particular. But the Anglican Church was on board with it too. So that's wide swaths of the Anglosphere as well. So
right.
And after that, we get more. There's you get the Pope Francis's liberation theology, and you get this big push for female priests. You get the nuns who, I don't know, whatever, they wear Bermuda shorts and Hawaiian shirts, and just these just bizarre some things anti-dogma, some things just kind of,
and the banjo and guitar mask.
Yeah, right? Up in the.
I've never seen one, but I've heard of them. Yeah. I've seen pictures of priests doing the mask in Mexican wrestler masks.
Yeah, stuff like that. I mean, that's more like post Vatican II, and that's, you know.
Yeah, I know.
That's what drove people like me, you know, to the Latin Mass.
I talked to people within like the evangelical churches that were ex-Catholics, and I talked to them about the Latin Mass and Novus Ordo, and they're not familiar at all with any of this stuff. Like,
yeah, it's too bad. It's too bad. I mean, it's right. You can find it. You know, I mean, the bottom line is, do you really want to take the steps that you have to extricate yourself from the poisonous grasp of modernism? And you can do it if you want to, and we should be grateful that we can, because, you know, there were in very recent history, there were a lot of places where you couldn't. You'd have to go to someone's basement, you know, to celebrate Mass, and if you got caught, you'd disappear.
right.
And this is how this is how the church started. Like I mean, I honestly do think that if we choose to live holy lives and choose to dedicate ourselves, not just politically and not just emotionally and not just, but really truly choose to dedicate ourselves, that the church will revive.
You know what it is? It's very similar to being in love, and you know, I'm gonna wax poetic or wax cheesy or whatever here, but it's, you know, you fall in love, and you get those the initial rush, you get the endorphins and the oxytocin and whatever other hormones and neurotransmitters help to facilitate the process. I'm being pretty secular here, but and you know, you get married.
Love on Oxycontin? What?
Secular.
I fell in love on oxygenated cotton.
I was on an Oxycontin bender.
No, it's oxytocin. It's that transmitter.
I know.
Okay, but anyway, you know, I mean, you get married, you fall into this routine, but every, you know, couples that go the distance, they'll tell you, and you're not going to find this in a stupid, cheesy self-help book or whatever, because it's very simple. They make that choice every day to be in love. And that doesn't mean that, you know, it's a wild, passionate love all the time, or even most of the time, but they make that choice, and that's how it is. If you want to be a Christian, you have to eschew, you know, in the case of being married, you know, maybe your secretary's flirting with you, you know, you're going to have to make that choice. Are you going to love your wife, or are you going to, you know, succumb to that momentary temptation of pleasure? You know, it's kind of a coarse analogy, but that's kind of how I see it with you know, if you really want to be a good Christian, you'll be able to find a way.
Right. Another thing is that, what was that?
Oh, I was just saying, sorry, I've been so quiet for a second. I was just sending Lumen something. I'm trying to dig it up. But yeah. Go ahead. Sorry for interrupting.
Yeah, and another thing about marriage, I was thinking about this, is that, like, in the popular media, like in the magazines written by Jewish pedophiles, there's all this talk about, like, spicing up your sex life, how, like, if you are in a relationship for too long with one person, it'll go stale, and like, it's ridiculous. One of the things is, like, what people don't understand, I was thinking about, is that, like, actual sexual intercourse makes up a very small amount of your marriage life. There's so much more to marriage. Like, you have to be able to relate.
Kids, I mean, beyond that, once you have kids, you know, say goodbye to that. Even, you know, you'll be struggling. If that's a key point for you, you'll be struggling to find that time to do it while not being in front of the kids. You know.
Oh yeah.
you know, your life completely changes from, you know, being centered around, you know, a marriage between two people, and it changes from that to, hey, I've got to raise a child.
Right. And I think people who have children have better marriages because if you're not keeping yourself busy, you have more time on your hands, and that's when like you gather. Sorry, I'm stuttering a lot. That's where all these thoughts enter into your mind about, like, you know, maybe she wasn't the right one. Maybe I would be happier if I married someone else. And that's how relationships fall apart. And it's sad.
Your relationship with God can suffer the same fate. You know, I'm not going to go into the details, but I'm coming through probably one of the most difficult, nightmarish times in my life with health, and I'm really grateful I got through it. And there were plenty of times that I missed mass, just 'cause, I mean, I could barely get out of bed, but somehow, and I'm so grateful, you know, somehow I was able to choose to keep God in my life, you know, to pick up my Bible, you know, to find different ways to remind myself. And you know, I'm not looking for praise here because, like I said, I missed mass. You know, I definitely you know, could have done better in some areas. But the point is, you know, you truly find the quality of something when you put it, you know, in the crucible, when you really heat it up. You know, that's when it, you know, the same goes for marriage as it does for and this is why we need, you know, Christ in the first place, because we're weak, because we choose to take the easy way out. And you know, it's kind of the whole purpose of it anyway.
Right. And I think doesn't asceticism also play a role in that, where you fast, or you go a while without like a certain form of entertainment, like during Lent you stop watching YouTube or whatever it is?
Yeah, those are good reminders. Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, this is what I like. It's one of the things I like about traditional Catholicism, and I'm guessing it's like this in the Orthodox Church, is that what the average cafeteria Catholic, you know, Novus Ordo going Catholic views as a sacrifice during Lent is probably something that we, if we're not doing it, we understand that it's something we should be doing anyway, like all year, you know, like, you know, it's
yeah.
just for an example, it's been completely, you know, forgotten, it seems to me, in the Catholic Church, that gluttony is a sin, you know, and you know, this.
Yeah, it's the same problem with the evangelical and Protestant churches as well.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's always good to remind yourself, and what I mean, and you should connect these things to Scripture, to tradition, you know, the tradition of the church, and you know, so you can't just say, oh, you know, I'm gonna stop watching Sex in the City and, you know, eating a box of Dove bars every night or whatever, and call it good. You have to connect that, you know, what you know, Christ was tempted in the desert, you know, you need to meditate on it. You know, this is something I learned by praying the rosary, you know, for a while, because I wear the brown scapular, and I committed to pray the rosary every day. And for a while I just kind of prayed it by rote, but I started connecting the, you know, each mystery to its source, you know, to where it comes from, to the Scriptures, and then trying to connect that to my life, and that's how you really kind of that will not only bring you closer to God, but it will bring you farther away from man, from the world.
Right. Yeah, giving up Sex and the City just for Lent. That sounds very Novus Ordo-y.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's an extreme example, but
Yeah, I mean, I was actually thinking about that. So I was again doing that thing, but I was actually talking with my friend. He's Messianic or something like that, ex-Catholic. I'm not sure what's going on, but he apparently doesn't do the whole Lent thing. And I mean, well, I gave up Lent. I gave up beer for Lent, which I don't know. It's pretty unthinkable for a German and a Lutheran, no less. But
yeah, good job.
yeah, no. And he was like, well, he basically compared to stopping smoking, or it's like, what? Why would you quit smoking on Lent when it's good to stop smoking? Period. That's not the point of Lent. The point of Lent is that, for example, Jesus. I mean, he ate. Did he need to eat? No, he was divine. He could have gone his entire life without eating, and lived through it. But he ate because it was something that he enjoyed. He enjoyed, if anyone tells you that Christ didn't enjoy, the nuances of being a human, I mean, they just don't know what they're talking about. I mean, why else would he be, eating with the common rabble, But anyway, so, during his time in the desert, he stopped eating. He didn't eat. He gave up something that he didn't need to survive. But it was something that still brought him, feelings of good. Like, and that's the thing. It's you're not doing, you're not quitting smoking or doing something that that you need to do anyway. No, if you're gonna quit smoking, do that on any day. Do it in the middle of Lent if you have to. But when you give up something for Lent, it should be something that that is basically going to be an inconvenience for you. I mean, that's the point. Like, it's something that you take that you want, but you're giving it up. Yeah,
it should be. It should be difficult, and there are plenty of. I mean, there. It could even be. I've never done this, but I've heard of people who, they stop using a pillow. And that might not sound like much, but if
3 days.
yeah, things like that. It does make it difficult.
Yeah.
But again, the point is you're looking to, because here's the thing about Christianity, and here's why it's just so ridiculous, the state it's gotten to. Christianity is something that is, in today, is supposed to connect us to eternal truths, and
but at the same time, because of how skewed it's gotten, Christianity, well, back when it was, in a right state, it was something where it's universal truths just were, whereas now you damn near have to explain every little bit of it, and not in a way that you think makes sense. No, like you're trying to explain, the whole thing of Lent. It's not about what you need to get rid of. It's what you would rather not get rid of, but you do anyway.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I don't eat too much sugar these days, but that's what I would usually do, and it worked out good because then I would have like jelly beans on Easter, I'd have absolutely no sugar, stuff like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, these are things that if you do them, they kind of, it's almost, these are safeguards that kind of, and they're almost, it's almost like having some cold water splashed on you. It reminds you of the world that you're living in, that where it's not just accepted, it's promoted to indulge, you know, and this is why, you know, the afterlife in Islam is just so absurd, because it's the same as life here. It's sensual, you know, it's about the senses. And you know, when you can give up things like this, and it's kind of like, oh yeah, you know, whatever it is, you know, maybe you're like, for me, it being sugar, you might be able to reflect, like, this is what connects me to the world, and perhaps, you know, it can remind you that this is an opportunity to connect yourself better to Christ and his Father.
Right.
Yeah. One thing I've noticed growing up evangelical is that they seem to have a myopic obsession with sexual morality, and they ignore all these other things such as gluttony, overindulgence, video games, whatever it is. Like, you could pretty much be a hedonist in every single way in the evangelical church except for a sexual hedonist.
Yeah, and
were you going to say something?
I was just going to reiterate, it's just really, you know, you just have to ask yourself how, you know, what is the percentage of my mind, my heart, and my soul engaged in the world compared to the percentage that's, you know, engaged in my salvation.
Right. And it's also like, well, I'm just talking about how evangelicals could be hedonists in every way except for sexual hedonists. How much luck have they had fighting sexual hedonism in their own personal lives? Like, how many pastors look at pornography?
I mean, they're, you know, they are, I'm not going to, you know, badmouth these people. I don't know what the numbers are or anything, but.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying, like, in general, not like attacking any.
Yeah, they're
person.
human. They're men, you know, and
yeah,
I mean, they're going to be weak. You know, they have flesh.
Yeah, but what I mean is that I think everything, when it comes to hedonism, there's a chain of hedonism, where, because like, you look at porn addicts, they are usually obese, so there's obviously a connection there. And you look at people that are in shape, they usually aren't watching a lot of porn, and they usually have fulfilling real life relationships.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
And they work hard. Yeah.
This is an issue I have with one of many that I have with libertarianism is, you know, you can be at home, you know, doing lots of bong hits and having gay sex and whatever, and you know, maybe your neighbors don't see it, maybe it's not affecting your work right now, but eventually it has a causational cascade, you know, a concatenation that, you know, you are still a part of the group, and you know, the fitness of your, you know, your constituent part of the group will eventually suffer, you know, and it's.
Yeah, it, simply put, you play shit. I mean, if you're, it doesn't matter if it's secret or not, you know, you're gonna get some with you, whether it's a disease or a rectal, you're gonna fuck up your body somehow.
Yeah, and you're gonna, I mean, it affects the rest of society.
Right.
Eventually, somehow.
And it degenerates your soul in some way. Like, it's not a.
Yeah.
This is not a way to grow. This is not a way to become. To ascend.
Sexuality is probably one of the most surefire ways of giving into the reprobate mind there is. In all honesty, it's because it's one of those things it's so deceiving, because, you know, it simply put, homosexuality is death imitating life, and, you know, your body craves life, but if you're a failure at making life, then it goes to the second best, and it goes to the second best in the worst of ways. And it's a very secure trap. It's a very secure pitfall. Once you're in, it's very hard to come back out of it. And it gets to a point where you don't want to come out of it, where you literally fall into the absolute reprobate mind of, I just want to ride this train into the fucking ground, you know?
And when it's reinforced by the society that you live in.
It compounds the issue. It exponentially compounds the issue.
But it's really just the most kind of extreme representation of sex abstracted from its proper and high place in human relationships, because it's it's pleasure without the chance of reproduction, essentially.
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
Pleasure ultimately, it's pleasure outside. It's pleasure of some kind. It's actually
it's death imitating life. Simply put.
Yeah,
a lot of people talking at once right now.
Yeah, it's basically like snorting lines of crack.
No, better yet,
it's not much different.
It's like snorting lines of crack, getting all the negative effects, but not even getting the high off of it.
No, I'm sure that like gays get high. I'm sure gays get orgasm from what they do, but
at least with
more dick, nigga.
Dick. Yeah, that's the biggest high they get. They get the high of, I'm so gay, it's awesome. No, whereas and that beyond the orgasm, that's as what it culminates to. They can tote their homosexuality in the streets all they want, and they're so proud. They have pride parades. Look how proud they are. Whereas a functional human being, somebody who's not a genetic failure, they can say, hey, I'm a parent. This little thing came out of my wife, and it's going to be a functional human being like me. That's how that's the thing. The life, that life, what is true, it's truly life. That carries on. That carries on into something that's more substantial than an orgasm.
Well, St. Thomas put it very clearly and simply in his his summary of that if an absence of God in your life is it creates that void, and it's usually filled by one of four things, and that's wealth, esteem, or honor. Those are the same thing. Pleasure and power. And you can check yourself pretty quickly and easily if you're honest. And if any of those four things figure heavily in your life, then you're probably suffering from a deficiency of your salvation, of your spirituality.
Right.
Very, very simple.
And within the gay community, there's a phenomenon known as bug chasing, where they.
Honey, it's not a
phenomenon.
phenomenon.
Have you heard that? Oh.
That's the logical end of nihilism. That's where you're actually just.
It's the fetishization of nihilism. It's
yeah.
the fetishization.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how it compares necessarily to maybe those people that kind of get their rocks off to videos like snuff, or even, God forbid, real death. I don't know how it compares to that, but I mean, it's probably it's pretty much in the same vein of they are spreading death, and it gives them pleasure. And that's another that's reprobate beyond belief.
Yeah, this is a type of stuff that I've learned about from listening to Common Phil.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. He gets attacked.
Dude.
Yeah, ignores on my orders.
But yeah, I mean, he
gets attacked a lot by the anal right. for touching this issue.
Yeah.
Anal, right?
He was actually on a podcast last night, and they his co-host he'd actually left by this point, but his co-host put it pretty plainly is that common filth is the crucible, and to separate the silver and gold from the slag, you have to heat it up, and we're starting to see who's the slag and who's the silver.
I just like to listen to him when I need to cheer up. He's just very.
Oh yeah, no, it's like
I'm joking because it's all pop.
Well, the thing is like his monotone voice gets like really.
It's all pause. Everything's pause.
But like when he gets something that's amusingly degenerate, when he gets to something like amusingly horrible,
yeah,
he starts laughing, and it's like it's like one of those things where it's like, wow, this is the best you've got, Satan. Wow.
But he's laughing on the deck of the Titanic.
Yeah. Now, again, another quote from there is that from that little podcast, Common Filth stared into the abyss, and the abyss blinked.
Ugh.
That's hilarious.
Well, I should probably stop shilling for him, but.
So what do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I think we should wrap up because
It's pretty much dead now. Yeah.
We're still 4.5 hours short of 8 hours though.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to go that long. That was really draining last time. So.
Yeah, other than that, we just talk about
it.
Syria again.
We don't have late night Bill here. Anymore.
Yeah, really, late night Bill was the only reason I let it go that long because I wanted to see him actually show up.
To see if he turn into a third or fourth or fifth persona.
Yeah, we had Shell Marchant and Late Night Bill with us last time. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, Ian, I was actually there for the end of that. So I remember Late Night Bill.
Well, did you just watch it, or were you in the thing? I don't remember you being in the thing. Maybe you left. You left at some point before the end of it, though. I know, because I remember at the end it was just me, Bill, Augustus, Gregory, and Sam.
Right, but at the end, like I specifically remember coming back into the hangout, like after, like I know I was in after y'all had cut it off. It was off the air, and we talked about our plans for Rahowa. But
yeah, I don't remember that.
That's pure trash, right? Talk about Rahowa.
Rahowa is just this little anime project we're working on. It's not a big deal. Don't worry about it.
Am I just a cuck?
Yeah, Rahowa is
stick? Is that what it is? Her.
Yeah, I think
Rahowa is just like Rahowa is just a novel about this princess named Rahowa.
I remember there was a joke meme going around on Twitter about Steven Crowder being like the biggest Nazi in the world, and it's like Steven Crowder's so hardcore he named his dog Rahowa. Yeah, I guess some people don't get the whole meme about Steven Crowder is like the most hardcore guy out there. That was like a joke started by, I think, Fascination or something. But yeah.
Yeah.
I just saw some Lawrence Murray tweets. I haven't seen him he's been just like.
He came out of hiding?
Yeah, he seemed today. He did. Trump's sins brought him out of hiding. It's good to see. I miss the
old Atlantic Centurion.
I miss the Murray. And this, yeah.
Should we wrap up now? Just to maybe
hopefully we get to have
off the air.
Yeah, hopefully we get to have another one before a nuclear holocaust occurs.
And I miss the Syria attack. I mean, not the Syria, the Stockholm thing. I didn't even know about
yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, you barely hear about it because everybody's just like what more can you say?
Somebody was saying something about a leg or something.
The pictures are horrendous. I can't even.
I haven't even seen any of them.
It's just
apparently some woman got cut in half, or girl or something.
Yeah, it's just.
Absolutely haram.
Kebab.
That's all I have to say about it.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian. God bless everyone.
Yeah, you can go there. All right. Just let me say one. Let me do a quick wrap up here. All right. Thanks to LUMEN Sol. Thank you, Gregory Carlin. Thank you, Delta USA. Thank you, Mark Citadel. Thank you, Joshua Jennings. Thank you, Britton. Thank you, Sam Heidelberg. Thank you, William Scott. It's been a pleasure to have all of you. It's been a good conversation, as always.
And to all our spectators.
Yeah, thanks for the 14 of you who are still here and the, I think, 26 who were here at one point. So that was pretty cool.
14?
1426.
Thank you to the 14.88 of you who are still here.
Yeah, who's the 0.88? I think Gregory's probably lurking somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway.
Is he a manlet?
Romanians only count for 1/88th of a person.
No, 88% of a person.
Or 88% of a person, yeah.
You get that math right. Anyway, have a good night, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye.
See you.